Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. We respectfully acknowledge that we live and work in Mi'kma'ki as a steward of the ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. We are all treaty people. We're going to change the order of the agenda, hopefully. Staff are requesting we move topic 4 to the top of the list, so we'll be talking about the pro-kids discussion first. Unless there's any other changes, I'd like to have an approval of the agenda, hopefully.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Coolin, seconded by Councillor Church. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Minutes have been circulated from the previous meeting. Can we get a motion to approve?
So moved. Seconded.
Moved by Warden Weber, seconded by Councillor Bremner. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. All right. Discussion time. Topic 4, Pro-Kid Adult Fund for consideration and discussion.
Morning, everyone.
Oh, there it goes.
So we'd like to have a discussion with council this morning around this idea of pro adults fund. So it's not a new idea. It's actually something that has been discussed for quite a number of years in our office, off and on, and but we have never kind of taken steps to go further and have conversations with council about that. So I know some of you are maybe a little tired of hearing from recreation staff about the importance of recreation and how important it is in our communities' lives and individuals, both from kind of physical health and mental health and kind of social health of individuals and communities. But I think it's safe to say that you'll continue to hear that into the future, because we just know in the work that we do just how important that is. And that is especially true when it comes to families living in our communities that live on low income. And so that's kind of a little bit of the background of what brought us here this morning in front of you to have this conversation. And again, I was reminded just a couple of weeks ago we were doing a mental health first aid training, and a big portion of that training was focused on recreation and what do people do for recreation, because we know how important that is, and taking that time to get away from work and get away from kind of some the big issues that folks are facing in their regular lives, and take time to rejuvenate, recuperate, take some time for yourself and do something fun, and just how important that is in kind of our daily lives. So that's just a little setup. So Cosette is here, and Cosette's presenting this just because Cosette is our lead when it comes to our Pro Kids program. She's got the background, she has the expertise, and really in our office is the one that kind of works on a daily basis with families in our community that access our Pro Kids program. So so Cosette's going to run through the slides with us today, and by all means, if there's questions that come up during the presentation or after, we'll both be here to kind of field any of those questions. So Cosette.
Thank you, Ted. Good morning, council and staff. Thank you for the opportunity for this today. And I noticed already that Pro Kids was mentioned, and it's actually Pro Adults. So I just want to mention that this is Pro Adults today, and I am probably going to make that slip several times for obvious reasons. But I do mean Pro Adults when I'm talking here today. But if I say Pro Kids, that's what. That's just a slip. Yeah.
So, positive recreation opportunities.
Yes.
Yeah, positive recreation opportunities for kids.
Yeah, so in this case, we're changing it to adults. So we're still hoping to have the Pro Kids program, of course, but this is a new program that we'd just like to present and give council something to think about, and a new program to possibly consider. So there are adults living in the municipality of Chester who are experiencing financial challenges to be able to participate in recreation opportunities. And on that slide, we do say participate in recreation programs and activities, and we should add cultural as well. So recreation and cultural activities, because recreation is more than just sports. When you hear the word recreation, quite often we tend to just think sports, but we must keep in mind that it brings in the arts and culture world as well. So it includes music and arts, drama, and that kind of thing as well. Okay, so right now, how we come up with the idea of this, participants have been aging out of Pro Kids. Pro Kids goes to age 18, so when they turn 19, there's no more funding for them. But we have found that there's still a need. So, I mean, as well as seniors later in life, but even at 19, all of a sudden we drop this funding, and the kids, it's not that they've come into any more money, so they're still in a position where they need this funding. Examples of that are Hinchinbrook Farm in Blockhouse. It's a therapeutic horse riding farm where we place a lot of kids into that farm. And kids that go there have to be referred to there by a doctor. And so the kids that have been going there, there's definite need and there's definite benefits to that program for them. But as soon as they turn 19, there's no more funding for them. And those kids still need that opportunity. So we thought we would like to try to extend this and create this program as a result. That's one reason, one example. Also university age students. So when university students, when they were kids within their home environment and they needed funding, and now they're off to university, they'd still like to participate in the recreation activities, but again, they don't have the financial means to be able to do so. And you might sort of think, well, they're off to university, so they've obviously got some money somewhere, but they're getting loans usually to go to university. So their money that they do have is paying for their education, again, so they don't have the extra funds for the recreation activities. So we'd like to be able to continue to keep those kids into the activities that they've been used to doing. Pro-Kids parents, we believe, would be good candidates for this program for obvious reasons. If they can't afford the recreation for their children, they can't afford it for themselves as well. So, and the thing with, if we could get parents involved in programs, there may be opportunities when they could participate in this activity as a family activity, which is right now, parents with financial challenges can only place their kids into these activities, but it limits them from taking part as well. I use family passes at facilities, might be an example, that this would be something that would maybe enable that for families now as well. Senior population, of course, we have a lot of seniors on low incomes in this municipality. And so this would open up the door for that. An example of a program that's recently started is chair line dancing. Erin Gore has offered her line dancing to lots of people, but she has recently expanded to the Shoreham Village apartments and Shoreham Village residence itself, and she's actually doing chair line dancing, which has been great. There have been one or two who have expressed interest, but the financial barrier was a challenge for them. We certainly made that happen for them at this point. We found ways to make that work. Erin Gore is also good at helping to make that work. But that is something that we feel that it would enable more, and there might be more people that would even consider where if they knew there was a funding option. Right now, they might say, I can't afford it, and they don't even think about it. But if this program were here, they might. And if they join, their friend might say, well, I was going to, but I didn't have anybody to do it with, but now if you're able to, then I'm gonna go. And so I think it's a trigger effect too, so I think it would really help. The rest there are just some stats, for municipal stats. 69% of individuals in our municipality make less than the living wage of $25 per hour. Hence, we can see that there's a need for something like this. 32% of households in the municipality of Chester have an income between $10,000 and $44,999. So just kind of showing you that the incomes in our municipality are not big. And then the next slide, 81% of couples, 93% of lone parents, and 98% of single persons do not have an income high enough to afford the current median sale price of a single detached dwelling in the municipality of Chester. I threw that in there just to remind us that if people don't have the financial means to be able to put a roof over their head, then the recreation is the thing that certainly gets pushed aside. So if we can help with that, I think that would be very beneficial. Just to let you know that when we started talking about this program, we did do some research on whether there are similar programs anywhere else, and yes, there certainly are across Nova Scotia and across Canada. This is just a chart. I know you can't read it. I can't even read it and I'm beside it because it's so fine print. But there's 9 or 10 examples of where we have searched other programs, and we have come up with developed hours based on a lot of research that we've done across Nova Scotia and Canada, and that we did programs from Newfoundland right across to BC, and certainly several throughout the Nova Scotia as well that are offering similar programs. So I think it is a trend and something that we should consider. Now, next slide. To provide recreation opportunities for low-income adults by removing the financial barriers, I mean, that's obvious as to why we want to do this program. It promotes social, physical, and mental well-being of adults, and certainly all adults can use that, whether you're a young teen, early 20s, or whether you're a senior. This was a program that could help all ages. And not only would it help the individuals, but I believe it would also help the community in general, because these individuals would now be going out and participating in recreation activities, which is in turn building socialization amongst the community. More people are getting out, they're being socially active, and it helps the organizations themselves, because it would be that many more people taking part in our programs. And an example that I would give there is recently we've offered a Learn to Curl program. So this opportunity, this program would enable somebody to give it a try that may not be able to afford it. They get out there, the more people we get involved in curling, the more it helps the curling club, that kind of thing, just as an example. Just the more people we get out there, it helps our organizations as well thrive. We would operate this program similar to how we presently do with ProKids, which is individuals who didn't have the financial means to take part in an activity could fill out an application form. The application would come into our office. It's basic information, general information on the applicant and on the activity that they're looking to take part in. And this system has worked very effectively with ProKids since 2002, so I think we have a proven record there that the system would work the same. So therefore it would be easy for us to implement this as well, because basically we already have the same process in place, so I don't think it would be a lot of extra work to incorporate this. Something that I will mention is when we approve somebody for a program, we do not write the checks to the family or the individuals. The checks get written directly to the groups and the organizations. So if it was if it was somebody wanting to do curling, we would write the check to the curling club and not to the individual to hand it over. So we make sure that it actually does go to the group and is being used for the intent of the program. Next slide. How would ProKids work? How would we determine who was approved or not approved? We would base it on notice of assessment from the previous year and or professional reference. And right there you will see the stats that we presently use, or the figures, the low income cutoff that we presently use for ProKids, and we would adopt that for this Pro Adults as well. This is the chart and the cutoff that we use for, and is used nationally for Jumpstart and Kidsport as well. So there would be nothing new to implement. That would be the criteria that we would base our decisions on. 9 times out of 10, this would work. There are exceptions to the rule, of course. So this is basically a good guideline to go by. But we would base it on last year's notice of assessment. So 2020, in this case, 2024 notice of assessment. If there was a family who was working in 2024, but is not working in 2025, they now cannot afford that activity because they're not working. Their 2024 notice of assessment would say that they can afford it because they were working last year. So those are the cases where we have to kind of do another little background check, and that's where the professional reference would come in. And we would find out if there, it's usually a doctor who might say this person is no longer working for medical reasons, that kind of thing. So we have some extra methods in place that we can go to if we need to. Generally speaking, it's the notice of assessment, but the professional reference does come into play from time to time. Okay? Yes, you sure can.
When you say the one person 29,380, are you talking net income or gross income? Net
Income, yeah.
Net income, okay.
Hold it, I always get myself confused. That's the income before deductions.
That's gross.
Gross income, sorry.
Gross income is no deductions. This is after deductions, net income.
No, this is gross then. This is no deductions. This is what the family brings in. Like 15000 is the gross, yeah.
Big difference. No,
Yeah, exactly.
can be.
Yeah.
I think it should be net income, but.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. No, that's what Jumpstart and Kidsport use across the country, and what we presently use for ProKids as well. But yeah, that's up to you guys to decide for sure. What do we cover? Registration fees would be the primary focus. That would be, and that presently is the way it is with ProKids as well. 95 or more % of what we assist in ProKids is registration fees. Very little is it equipment. And I must say, we get very little requests for the equipment. But usually we kind of have a non-advertised max that we use for ProKids, which we would do here. We don't actually set a max, but we have a figure in mind that we kind of try to stick to. And if we've used that for registration, then we don't go above that usually with the equipment and that kind of thing. Again, there's always maybe an odd exception, but for the most part, that's sort of the rule we follow. So again, we would follow that with this program. We would focus mainly on registration fees, but there may be some cases when equipment would be necessary. An example might be a yoga class. If somebody wanted to take yoga and they needed a yoga mat, we might consider a yoga mat as well for that. Pickleball, of course, is a popular sport these days. The registration fee itself is not that much. It's usually a $4 drop-in fee. But that might be something that somebody doesn't have the extra, but the racket might be the expense. So we might buy a racket in this case. And equipment like that, we can actually sort of put a little caveat on to say, we can buy you a pickleball racket that you can use for as long as you're playing pickleball. When you're done, if you decide it wasn't for you, we'd like to have it back and then we can reuse it for the next person, that kind of thing. Some equipment you can do that with, some you cannot. If it's a little more personal equipment, you can't necessarily, but. So we would keep that in mind, and it could be part of equipment inventory for us as well. Transportation, 9 times out of 10 we would like to avoid assisting with transportation, but we like to always have the door open in case that is the one barrier that is holding that person from participating. It is something that we would look at. It wouldn't be an easy one to manage necessarily, so we would have to put certain restrictions in place, i.e. using community wheels quite often as an example, as opposed to putting gas in people's cars. So there may be ways and opportunities that we could use that if we needed to, but that would be kind of one of the last resorts. The program, of course, is confidential. Chad and I are the only two that presently see the names associated with ProKids. When we contact the groups and say that we're going to pay for so-and-so to take this activity, we always ask the groups to keep it as confidential, the name as confidential as possible within their organization, so we usually try to just deal with the treasurers. And then also, when the invoice comes in to us for us to pay from the group, we redact the name before it even goes to the admin office. Again, Chad and I are the only two that see it, but the admin staff don't even see the name. So downstairs in the tax office, they don't see the names either. So just to let you know, it is kept quite confidential. We would recommend that the ProKids coordinator, which would be myself, to administer this program. And again, it's like anything, you might say, well, can I handle it on my plate? Can I add more workload? Because the more you add, something's going to suffer somewhere. We feel that starting out initially for the first year or two that it wouldn't be a big add and that we would be able to accommodate that because the systems are already in place and because I'm familiar with the systems. So I think it would be an easy add at this point in time. Down the road, if it really takes off, we'd have to address that, I think, at that time. But for now, I think that would work. Next slide. Where would the funds come from? That would be municipal council, we're hoping. Our intention is not for it to be a big ask at this point in time, and obviously you're not making that decision today, but something to think about. We have in mind maybe $5,000 for the first year to start that, and that $5,000 would go into paying the registration fees and equipment and so on for those people. The admin fees and my salary would automatically come out of the rec budget anyway, so there would be no additional expense for that. So it would just be the program fees that we'd be looking at. So we're guessing, I mean, we don't know what the uptake for the program would be, but we would like to start with maybe $5,000 for the first year and maybe $5,000 for a second year, and look at that. We would accept donations from the public if there were any public members that wanted to contribute to this program and offer a donation. We certainly would accept that, but it would not be our intention to go fundraise because we don't want to compete with ProKids. It might be confusing to start with, but we also don't want to compete. Next slide.
Oh, well, one moment.
Oh, sorry.
Warden Weber?
Yeah,
No, I just, I understand all that,
Yep.
I know that a lot of people do give money or
Yes.
whatever to resources to the Pro Kids program. I just wonder how much, because it's, do you have a figure, like,
I don't think I can tell you the figure from individuals, but what I can tell you.
the overall figure?
For
Yeah,
approximately.
so I think
Yeah.
so budget wise, so I think this is one of the, I think highlights of our recreation budget annually is that, for our Pro Kids funding, we typically give out roughly $40,000 a year, in fees. And the only amount of that $40,000, only $5,000 comes from municipal council, and all the remaining funds comes from the community. And so
Yep.
that's a combination of fundraising activities like, so this past summer we had the Pro Kids Golf Tournament. We have a lot of donations that come in memorials, for people, and just, this time of year, we get people just coming in with checks and dropping it off for Pro Kids. So, yeah, 35 of that $40,000 comes from the community. And so, we do think we wouldn't see that same type of donation
Right.
to support adults as we would children, for obvious reasons. But that's not to say that there isn't, somebody in the community that would hear about this program and that would want to make a contribution towards it as well. So, yeah, and so I get the only other point just to tack on here, is that we were thinking about this as not a long-term commitment initially, is that let's try it out maybe for a couple of years as kind of a pilot and see how it works. And we have we haven't done a lot of work on this because we wanted to bring it to council before spending any significant amount of time and resources preparing for it. But we do know that the uptake isn't the same as it would be with children. And so obviously if you think of our sport program, like our minor hockey, our minor soccer, dance lessons, all those kind of things are extremely popular with our kids, and it's not as much for adults. Like a lot of adults do their own recreation activities personally and aren't involved in activities, but there are a lot of options out there as well, whether some of those things that Cosette mentioned, like a yoga class or a dance class or those kind of things. So we're not, we don't anticipate the uptake to be significant, but I guess trying it out for a 2-year period would let us know just what that interest would be and kind of where we would be after that time. So
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to, I knew that you raised a lot of money
Yeah.
for private sources.
Yeah. And another add-on to that is that happens naturally too within the community, I might add, that I'm not going out and soliciting for those donations. People are just naturally giving to the Pro Kids program. So
and part of that is the longevity of the program. Like initially, we struggled to raise
Yeah.
money just because of how long Pro Kids has been around and the number of lives that's impacted, frankly. So the more people and families that go through, so we're seeing a lot of individuals that have gone through the Pro Kids program, received funding and support when they're younger, and now they're older, growing up, and have kids. We've been around that long, and those families are now coming back and wanting to provide support as well. So it's really interesting just to see the support and how it's grown over time. Yep.
lots of obituaries, yeah, we have several every year of people just naturally put it for memorial donations when somebody in the family passes, so. Yeah, I think the Pro Kids program has certainly caught on and been well supported by the community. So the next steps, I'll leave it with council to provide us with some direction whether they'd like us to proceed and create some more detailed guidelines or not. We would hope to work on that starting in January, and we would need a name for the program as well. We have brainstormed a few amongst our rec staff, but I don't want to put any thoughts into your mind and let you guys think about that as well to see if there's anything, if anything pops into anybody's head, we're open to suggestions on a name as well. So we just called it Pro Adults today to make the connection to Pro Kids. That doesn't necessarily have to be the name of the program. We can be creative and come up with some other name, but we're open to suggestions on that as well. And ideally, if council were to consider this and think about it, we could build it into next year's budget, we would look to potentially launch the program in 2026, the spring of 2026. And
Councillor Church?
Thank you. Thank you for all the work you've put into it. And I hate to be negative, but I'm not totally in support of this program. I 100% support Pro Kids. I think it's fabulous. I like that, you know, do support that program. I even do personally. I think that gives them a good start until 19, and then you're an adult. You have to accept responsibility, and it's individual responsibility when you become an adult. Not everyone can afford things, whether it be recreation, it may be someone that can't afford food.
Yeah.
So it's really, I don't feel it's a core like government service that we should be providing.
No, that's fair enough.
I know it's going to cost additional financial commitment, and then, you know, once we're committed to it, it's hard to pull it back.
Yeah.
And, you know, where do you draw the line? I just think, you know, there's a challenge with the funding and certainly with the amounts. I just, at this time, I
And
don't
those
want to
are
go there.
Those are all things that certainly you can consider, and even the financial criteria, I mean, you guys could change that criteria and set your own numbers that you want us to follow, if that were a factor.
And
potentially.
also, just the connection with Pro Kids, I wouldn't want it to have any close connection, because I think that is such a good program and is supported by many. And, you know, there's a lot of things that we offer our citizens that doesn't cost money. I mean,
Yeah,
For sure.
and not all, you know, not all kids can play hockey.
yeah.
Even though I know you're saying there is Pro Kids there, but
Yeah.
the
Oh, yeah, no,
families
it's
choose
hockey's
not to for many reasons.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I think once you become an adult, it's your responsibility. There's many activities that they can join that doesn't cost money. I could name quite a
Yeah.
few.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
not totally in favor of this.
Yeah, I think we do recognize that, Sharon, is that it is absolutely, when you become an adult, it is your responsibility. I guess the issues that low-income families face, whether it's children's or adults, do continue throughout their lifespan. And so that was the idea, was to, you know, just to provide that additional support and boost, you know, just because of how important those recreational activities can be, you know, for those families. And with the Pro Kids, so that was part of our rationale for coming up with a completely different name than Pro Kids, is we do not want it to be associated
Yeah.
with Pro Kids, that it would be completely separate. And so, you know, no impacts on funding or anything to do with the Pro Kids program. So yeah, that was the idea of, you know, keeping them separate.
And if it helped, there's even, you know, council could even consider setting an age criteria on it. Like if you're thinking like 19, at that point, you're thinking maybe they should be on their own. But maybe you can focus more on the older senior population potentially. Anyway, just thoughts, food for thought. And if I can just
I don't know if you need to go through the testimonials. We've read the package
Yeah.
and, you know.
Yep.
I think we know the benefit of
Yeah.
Pro Kids, unless somebody here wants to hear it. But, you
Yep.
know, just for the sake of expediency, I think there's no
Absolutely.
real reason to go through
Yep.
them.
No.
They were,
They're
I think
in
they
the
were just,
package,
yeah.
and
They were
we
just-
certainly know the benefits of Pro Kids and
Yeah.
the lives it's impacted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hoping that everybody did take the time to read the testimonials, because they are quite moving.
Yeah,
So that
yeah,
is-
I think that, the idea of putting those in there was, just, that this isn't just coming from us as well, that we've been hearing it from the community, so, you know, local doctors and whatnot, and seeing the benefits, and so, so we don't need to get into details, but just that there is that, we have heard from folks in the community that this would be beneficial as well, so. Yeah, so I guess we'll open it up, any other kind of comments or questions or
Okay, let's
thoughts?
I don't know where the other two went.
Warden Weber, I think Councillor Coolin, she's not feeling real good right now, so
Oh.
she's just stepped outside for just a second.
Okay. Yeah, like, I mean, I understand Sharon's concerns, but at the same time, I mean, maybe not for the 19, but I can see where it'd be beneficial to the senior population. Because, I mean, I certainly know a pile of them who don't do much of anything, and it would do them a lot of good to get out and do something.
Yeah.
You know, and they do not have a lot of money. And, you know, but maybe that maybe it starts at 65, I don't know, you know,
Yeah.
but in a general sense, I think the program to help people, just because you turn 19 doesn't mean you don't need help. You know, I guess that's all I'm saying.
And maybe 19 with disabilities, because the one program that I certainly think of is Hinchinbrook Farm, which are children with disabilities. And I know that families have really struggled at that. They've had their kids into the program up to that point.
Yeah,
and then-
tighten up the criteria to some degree.
Yep, yeah,
Do that.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
They need to give direction of some sort.
Okay. Councillor Bremner.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Through you to Cosette, I just want, maybe these were asked, I'm sorry, I had
Yeah,
to step
no,
out for a minute.
yeah.
Is this for our municipality residents only?
Yes,
Okay?
yes.
And
I should clarify that, yes.
when we have a program in our municipality, but someone wants to go somewhere else, do we keep it in our municipality that the program should be used?
So we typically, we leave it up to the individual and what works for them, and so there are circumstances, where if there's a program, and this is using the Pro Kids as an
Yeah.
example, and that's, which we probably would do the same if this goes forward, is that if there is a program that's not offered locally, and it's maybe offered, on the other side of the county line, either in HRM or in the other direction, that we would support that, but they do have to live here and be a resident here, and of course the preference is to support local and things that we have happening here, but we would do that. But if it's a resident outside of our municipality, then we would not look at
Yeah.
that application.
Okay, thank you very much.
Swimming at the LCLC would be a good example of that,
Yes.
where we don't have an indoor
That's
swimming
where I was
facility
going,
here,
exactly, that
but we've
kind
had
of thing.
adults wanting to do swimming
Yeah.
lessons at the LCLC. Yeah. So the key is we focus on our residents. The program doesn't, 99% of the time, the program is within our municipality, but sometimes the program is outside of the municipality. Yeah.
Well, since everybody else has spoken, I'll give my input. I've always had a problem with any policy that has really abrupt edges on it. For example, someone's 18 years old, they qualify, next year they don't, their situation hasn't changed in any meaningful way, and you go from 100% support to 0% support. There are many examples we could point to, and government likes to create categories of people that are in need, but they don't usually fit very well to the actual on-the-ground situations. That's my experience. You know, you've given some examples yourself. You know, if the purpose of this is to deal with, it really comes down to underfunded families, because if you're supporting a child or an adult or whoever the person is, it's because they had lacked the resources to access these programs. I don't feel any love or affinity or anything like that to the sort of branding that's around Pro Kids, personally. To me, it's just a program that offers disadvantaged people an opportunity to access recreation. So, opening it up to people that don't have the means, if should they wish to access some support, I don't really see an issue with that. I actually don't even have a problem with combining it, which I know it's been the discussion here, but why it's not just Pro Chester and it's just recreation opportunities for all. I don't see why that would be a problem, why we have to have it in compartments like that. Like, you know, if you're 18 or 19, what's the difference? Or if you're 63, who cares? To me, it should be, like, we have a bin of money that's available to people that need access to it, and, you know, maybe we phase out the branding of Pro Kids and we roll it into a Pro Chester, and this is what it is. And to me, that would be what I would support, because I just don't see any reason to put these hard limits on who can access this program. And but that's, you know, I wasn't here. There are some counselors that were here during its, I think it's Trudy Payne that that brought it in 2002. And I know there are other initiatives, but I just don't, I really, you know, and there are, this Pro Kids idea exists outside of the municipality of Chester.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was an idea that was imported from other jurisdictions, but, you know, if we wanna tune it, I don't really see any problem with that. To me, it should be recreation opportunities for all. That's my take. I'll now open it up for the, Warden Weber.
No, well, whatever, doesn't matter. I mean, I guess I'm generally speaking in favor. I'm not gonna get all hung up on what they call the name or anything like that. But I mean, all we're trying to do is help people who need the help. And I'm in favor of that. It doesn't cost us that much money to be able to provide that service to people, so. However we do it, I'm in support.
Councillor Coolin?
Thank you. Assignment of changing the name to Pro-Chester, then that may take away from the program that's been working so well for the children. And if the pool is opened to all at the same time, how many the adults think could take away opportunities, advantages for the children? And the whole premise of Pro Kids is not to keep it separate, but to allow it to grow, and it's been fostered as long as it has been with you guys under your tutelage. It's a great program. $5,000 doesn't seem like a lot of money, obviously, to support a separate program for adults in a calendar year. But I think if they were combined, as Councillor Vino, Deputy Warden, has suggested, that it would potentially take away from the children's need and the amount availability to them. Thank you.
I guess that was part of our thoughts when we talked about keeping it separate, was just if there's any, if there's any opportunity where, you know, a donor may be really happy to support children, but not adults in the community, that would be the only, you know, part of the reason why we're thinking of keeping them separate, so, yeah, but I get your point.
Councillor Bremner?
Thank you, Deputy Warden. I believe with the changing atmosphere in the availability of options to do like curling, stick curling now and that kind of thing, that brings more people into the realm of participation. And that brings a different financial ability. If they have this opportunity, you know, their physical may not restrict them as it would before. So I'm very open-minded in this. I do like the 5,000 separate, because I think if 2 years later it hasn't done what we hope, we can look at it. I don't want to get into a combined thing, because I really love the idea of helping the youth, but I also fully understand when you get to that certain age, you go over that criteria, and then you're dropped off like a, you know, and that's unfortunate. I don't believe in that personally. I think that has to be equality right through if we can do that. So I am in favor of an adult program. Naming doesn't bother me as long as we don't destroy the Pro Kids thing. And the 5,000, I think, is a reasonable start for a couple of years. I personally believe we get criticized a lot for not doing community vision things that are beyond just the normals. This is very visionary, I believe, and looking at a new opportunity that not a lot are doing, but some are doing, and obviously having success. So again, I'll stop yapping now and I'll just say I would support that program. Thank you.
Councillor Church?
Thank you, Deputy Warden. It sounds like most people want to support this. If it does go ahead, I certainly would like to keep it separate from Pro Kids. I think we have had such a good success rate with that. A lot of people donate because it's for the kids. And I think if we lump it in with adults, I don't know that you'd get that support. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. So to me, if we're going to do it, absolutely keep it separate, in my opinion.
And I understand the comments about being careful to support adults, but we certainly would make sure that we're not supporting just every adult out there. It would be adults in need. So, you know, I mean, we would be very careful on the criteria there.
And I'd just be interested to note, I think that figure you've come up with is even higher than somebody on OAS and the supplement. I don't even think they get that much,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah. No, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're right. They don't. It's more like 22 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that? Yeah, it sounds like you got your direction. It sounds like there's generally support
Yeah.
for this, and that the desire of council is just keep it separate. You know, maybe depending on the sentiment in a few years, and, you know, then that's a discussion that could be had about if it continues, or if it's integrated, or if it remains separate. That doesn't have to happen today, but, sounds like you've got your marching orders.
Sounds good, thank you.
Councillor
Thank you for your
Coolin, were you
time.
waiting to speak?
I just want to confirm that we're not divinely saying 5,000, we're going to discuss that amongst ourselves, right? That was a proposed amount from the rec department.
Yeah, so-
it'll come back to us, right? Because nothing is, we're
That'll
not
come in
assuring
budget.
5,000, we
You
are,
know, so
okay,
we
thank you,
would-
I just
we
wanted
would-
to confirm that.
Yeah, so we'll put a little bit more thought into it, come up with some guidelines and a little bit more of a outline of what the program would be, and definitely would come back to you during budget deliberations.
Thank you.
With a specific number, but I would say for certain it wouldn't be any more than 5,000 for sure. That
Thank
would
you.
be the most. Okay.
Okay,
Excited to move forward, thank you. You are welcome.
hot dog.
We have a chair falling apart by the looks of things. Just
Okay,
pieces.
well, it sounds like now we have the opportunity to talk about topic one. Municipality of Chester Arts and Cultural Strategic Plan, Grant Proposal, Corporate and Strategic Management. Oh, boy.
All right. Morning. All right, you can go on to the first slide. Thanks, Em. I thought we'd just do a little refresher of the vision and mission of the Arts and Culture Strategy. I can.
That's bad. Try going to the other spot. Yeah. And maybe turn it towards you a little bit. Yeah, just sit there and then, yeah, there you go. You take your coffee with you. All right.
All right. So would council like me to read the vision and mission, but I know you already had your packages. I wanted to give you
No.
a refresher.
My preference is not to have slides that read to me,
Fabulous.
but I can't speak for the others.
Okay, so moving on just with a quick refresher of these were the purpose and goals, roles for the municipality that were identified, and our 6 key priorities. So a grant review was a phase 1 action item. It touches on many of the priorities throughout the strategy. These are the goals that would be advanced through this proposal, which you guys have already reviewed. So the first one, just to give a little background, apologies, I did a review across Atlantic Canada of various arts and culture grants, events and festival grants, EDI statements, other various things with municipalities and provincial organizations. So first one up for review is our youth sponsorship. Current focus is sports and recreation. I was hoping with our arts and culture strategy to expand that to include arts competitions, exhibitions for individuals and groups to give us more opportunities for our youth in our community, and increase the age from 21 to 25 for consideration to give more opportunities for post-secondary youth. There will be no change to the max amount, the budget, how it's reviewed. We're just expanding the scope of the grants to give more opportunities. And the benefit would be to encourage and support our youth artists. I would also propose adding an EDI statement, which is alignment with the strategy as well as our EDI action plan. I modeled this after Arts Nova Scotia. So feel free to stop me at any time with any questions or anything. But it does help amplify those equity deserving groups and let them know that we're putting them at the forefront.
Why don't you talk a little bit more about what you hope to achieve with the operating grant? Because there are a number of grant proposals in here, and they're a little different, each one. So what does the grant hope to underpin exactly?
The youth grant?
The first one on the list,
Yeah, so the youth sponsorship, again, right now, our youth sponsorship focuses mainly on sports activities, teams of individuals going to competitions. this would expand that for our youth artists to be able to apply for funding to go to art competitions, exhibitions, explore those opportunities. So it would help grow our youth artists, and hopefully they would come back, and then, we would have more opportunities for youth in our community.
Do we want to go one by one, discussing these, or I think maybe it might be best.
Any comments on the idea of expanding the scope of the grants?
So youth is considered 21?
Right now, it's to 21. That's what our current grant says. I was proposing to 25 because there's many in post-secondary. But again, that's for council to discuss.
Councillor Church.
Thank you. I just don't know why we have this as 21, 25, and then we have the Pro Kids now at 19. I think we need to be consistent with all of our groups. Maybe it should be 21 for Pro Kids, I'm thinking. I don't know where we come up with this number.
I just took it from our grant. I didn't review Pro Kids before.
It would just be historical, just the programs developed at different time and maybe just didn't realize, and yeah, so there's probably not a hard and fast rationale.
It just picks up.
I know,
I can say from looking at other grants, and there's other, if we want to example, other employment programs, youth can go from 18 to 30. It can be in the middle, that's, depending on the program, it's a little, there's lots of examples.
that's all. I just think we should be consistent, but we aren't.
We're not the only ones.
Since everybody else has spoken, I'll give my opinion. I have a big problem with this EDI statement.
Okay.
I actually, it raises the hair on my neck when I see any statement that gives preference to any group, even if it's cloaked in virtue.
Okay.
Okay, so for me, I have no problem with an EDI statement that says that, that we're wishing to reduce barriers or anything like that, but any statement that personally, that provides a benefit or that is not available to all, or some sort of preferential treatment to one group over another, I have a big problem with that, personally.
Okay.
And I'll just leave it there. Warden Whipper.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I mean, I recognize that we want to help all these people, but we're giving preference to them and eliminating others. So I don't want to segregate the population. I want us all to be treated equally and fairly, and we're spending too much time separating ourselves from each other, not enough trying to bring ourselves all together, in my view. So I mean, this would suggest that if you're me or one of my kids or something, that you'd be at the bottom of the list. And I don't see how that's fair.
Well, to answer, I pulled this from Arts Nova Scotia's equity framework as an example. If council's feedback is to tailor it more to what's currently in our job descriptions, which is that the MOC is committed to equity, diversity, and inclusion, and we encourage applications from.
That I'm fine with, yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Because it's inclusive, but I don't like this separation stuff all the time.
No, I don't, I disagree with the public's, or the province's position on that.
Okay.
And I think generally, popular opinion is moving away from those ideologies, frankly. That's my take on it, and,
Well, we're segregating other people.
Yeah, no.
That's-
some sort of racism that's like, or other discriminatory practices that it's sort of somehow cloaked in virtue. I have no time for it, and I don't think the people of my district would either.
Okay.
I think it should be reworked to talk about that we want to see, and we will support, and we will work to reduce barriers. Those things are no problem. We want to hear
That's
from
fine.
every marginalized community, of course.
It can be reworded, like it can match what's in our job descriptions at the moment, our
Yes.
job postings.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that the general public, if we were putting job postings that had statements like this, I think they would be not very happy about that, and I see no reason why we would offer grants that also have these statements.
Okay.
Bring them together, don't say.
Even if we said we
Counselor Church.
encourage individuals,
Yeah, anything,
anything, but yes, I
not
think.
preference to.
Okay. Any other? So you've seen that statement a few times, so we can,
Yeah, we're not gonna go over it every time.
perfect. So we can
But
do the feedback now,
every
but
time we
that can
see
be
it-
reworded, that's fine.
It would appear that, reading the room, that's the
Mm-hmm.
will of this council. Councillor Asif.
I don't agree with it either, but do we have to put an EDI statement in the policy? Do we have to put an EDI statement?
It's currently a part of part of the strategies to amplify our equity deserving groups. It's also in our EDI action plan.
But I mean, it's not something that we have to do.
No, we do it in our job postings, so it will kind of mirror that if I use the same language.
Okay.
I personally have no problem reinforcing the idea that we want to hear, if you're in some sort of marginalized group,
We want to
you
hear
know, we want that, but, you know, no preference.
Okay.
And you could even, sorry. You could even reword it.
Councillor Asif.
Sorry. It's just take preferences out. And, you know, we encourage individuals and groups that have historical faced barriers. And if you want to include those groups, that's fine, but take the word preference out, I think would be fine with me.
Okay.
much
You
simpler.
can mention every group that you have there.
But don't leave us out, don't leave.
Preferences, I
everybody
think, is a key word there,
Okay.
my view.
No,
Thank
that
you.
seems to
out.
be,
Make it simpler.
okay. So moving on, some direct feedback from many groups that we spoke to was the need for a multi-year operating grant. Now, I know council has addressed this like individually with some other groups, but I wanted to propose expanding our operating grant from a single annual grant. It also helps reduce grant fatigue for groups as well as our admin staff here. That we would still have the annual grant of $3,000, but after you met all the qualifications and reporting of that, you would be able to then apply for a 3-year, multi-year funding grant, just to reduce some of that administrative burden, and it helps give that stability in funding to encourage programming in our community. So again, no change to the process, no change to the review or eligible activities. The budget could be reallocated between the two grants. And again, you see the benefits, just long-term sustainability of our arts and culture community.
Well, since the others have spoken, I'll chime in with my commentary. How does this differ from our other operating grants? So if this were some other group, a community center or something else, you know, we have a funding stream available for operations. How is it that if we have something specific to the arts sector, that we want to do multi-year operating grants, but not for those other groups? Why would we do that?
Well, it doesn't have to be restricted to only arts and culture. It's coming out of the strategy, but any group could apply for this.
Okay.
Us.
I think you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think the intention is that we're looking at what our recreation grants right now and what is currently an operating grant and expanding it to include an arts and culture component to it. Is that what this is? So this would apply to the other grants as well. It would be rolled into the other grant program. Is that the intention?
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's I think it's just an additional emphasis to the arts and culture community. So they're already eligible, but we don't necessarily, in like any of our promotion or literature, we don't, specify arts and culture, but so it would be, I think, Ashley, correct, it's highlighting that and making sure that groups are aware that the funding is
Yeah.
available.
Yeah, but it's coming out of the strategy, but it could definitely benefit other groups in our community.
But one thing we don't have in our current grant program, that was the multi-year funding. That's not an option right now. It's a single year, single intake for a specific project, budget or operating. So that's I think the key difference in
Yeah.
this.
How does the committee feel about that? Think to the ends of our council, our elected term, we may make decisions on behalf of a council that isn't in government. You know, how does this committee feel about that? I'd like to hear. I think staff would like to hear. Yes, and I know you're gonna say it's not the first time we've done it.
No, I'm not gonna say that. The only thing that I was gonna add on was that this would be very different than what we typically do in the past. And so, for example, right now, our operating budget is $33,000 a year, and so council knows that going in. So if we were to, have multi-year funding, that's fine, and I totally see the benefit from other groups. That council would need to be aware of that, and we would have to make sure going in that council knew the commitments from the previous years going in. So at that total budget of 33,000, there would be some of that potentially would be already committed for a couple of years in advance until that we would just have to be clear in making sure that council was aware of what those previous years' commitments were going forward, and that full $33,000 would have some already partly committed and gone from the budget. So that's just a little bit different.
Okay. Moving along.
Okay,
I'm sorry, Councillor Bremner.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. When we talk about arts and culture, we have to look how, again, that has changed in the last number of years. The retooling and the reopening of our Playhouse, which has been a fantastic improvement and success, and our art center, and all kinds of people coming in that have very unique and special talents that we want to encourage, and we want them to be part of our community and grow. And then I look at our school opportunities. I think the art and culture is one of many, but a very high priority one that we have to continue to look at and change with and support with, and look at the options that are going to also bring people to our area for that reason, just like recreation, and build that culture that we are actually a very supporting, open municipality in the way of diversifying when it needs to be. Often now we're going to have to revisit things that we thought we'd never revisit for many years, every several years, because it's just that quickly changing. And I know it's always about the green, the money, and what's available or not available. We also affordably, have a very reasonable tax rate. We have a very reasonable process I think that works. We have our landfill that is definitely helping us offset things and doing opportunities. We have to invest in the things that will grow and bring that change, because we can't stay the way we were. And the more and more I hear from the cultures, the demands are greater, and the use of it is being enhanced by that opportunity. And I think of all the events that they've all done in the last year or two, and since I've been around, and it's just been incredible what has grown and what's happened. So I think it's a very needed, well-organized, has to be structured to manage, provide, and to grow as needs to be. Thank you.
Yeah, and if I can add to that, for the benefit of those councillors that weren't present at the time, this is actually all flowing from work that was done 11 years ago at the 2014 Economic Development Strategy, and it identified our arts and culture sector as one of our key growth sectors in the municipality. And that's actually it's been a long journey, but this is what has precipitated to eventually lead us to this place. And it actually wouldn't be a bad idea to dust that thing off and just circulate it for the benefit of those at this table that weren't here at that time. But that is actually why we're doing this at this time. So what you're saying is actually in that strategy. So I guess that's very insightful, Councillor Bremner. I'm glad you brought it up, and maybe if staff could just circulate that just for the benefit of those councillors that weren't present at the time. By all means. Oh, what's your thing here? Yeah, just hit it. Oh, there it goes.
The economic development strategy, as you referenced, is very old. And so one of the strategic priorities that council put in your strategic plan is to bring back a refreshed version. So you will be seeing that in, I believe the plan is January.
Okay.
So it is coming to get you up to speed on what has been done and then what the future path is going forward.
I have every confidence, though, that arts and culture will continue to be a potential emerging growth sector for this municipality. It hasn't changed. Okay, moving along. Oh, Councillor Bremner.
Thank you, Deputy. I just want to make, this is a bit of a sidetrack, but I think that points out how much we have to give extra as a council to have things not take too long in the queue for years and years and years. And one of the reasons I ran was I wanted to make sure that the time was given, and I think we all do, to make sure we get things timely put on the table and moved forward. I personally don't like it took 11 years. I think that's way out of touch. I do believe that proves also that every 2 or 3 years we're going to have to spend time revisiting many things, because that's how the world is changing. And I do appreciate, and I think that's a lot of consideration and extra we're going to have to put on ourselves to manage the way we do daily operations in our world as councillors, and what we need to push forward on a timely factor. Thank you.
Some good finger wagging, Councillor Bremner. Moving on.
Okay, so continuing that line of thought of elevating the arts and culture community, currently our Recreation and Parks grant does mention cultural activities once you start digging into it, but at a first glance, it seems more focused on sports and recreation. So I wanted to propose there are 2 options: that we do a name change to Recreation and Culture. That can be very simple and quick. Or we break out and we have a sports and recreation focus and an arts and culture focus. And the budget could be
What does the
allocated
committee
between the 2 grants.
What are the thoughts from the committee?
Join them together. I don't know.
Councillor Bremner.
Any preference?
Thank you, Deputy Warden. I like the idea of joining them together. I got to
Okay.
be honest, because I think they're so more intertangled today than they used to be. And I think they have a definite, how many facilities now for recreation are we starting to see more modern art in the hallways, things that are changing, and that is a growing thing, and I think that's something we will be developing and building in the future, particularly if we're fortunate enough to build a new recreation center in years to come, that we will incorporate all those components of culture with recreation and recreation with culture. Thank you.
Okay.
And I think just to highlight, this change, I think again, it highlights the culture piece, where it has been there before. So for example, in our most recent approvals of recreation grants this year, we supported the Aspadagan Arts and Craft Group, right? And so it's not that they weren't eligible to apply before, but I think it's just highlighting that and emphasizing it and making sure that those culture groups know that they are welcome to apply for that stream. So, yeah.
Reducing barriers, I think you could almost say. And, you know, I think that there's obviously mental health, physical health,
Yep.
equally important.
I can give that spiel again if you like.
All right, moving on. So again, to a big part that came out of feedback from the various groups we spoke to was building capacity of the volunteer boards and admin staff that are running our arts and culture groups. But again, this could extend beyond that. Our leadership training currently focuses on physical activity, sport, recreation. I was hoping to expand the scope to board governance training, leadership training, administration training for those who are actually running the organizations on the skeleton crew, so that we can build their expertise and capacity.
Okay, moving along.
All right.
Everybody, body language looks good so far.
So far, so good. So now we're into sort of new grants that I would propose for council to consider. First one is an artist in residence grant. This came out of some feedback from our community consultations as well. It would help increase arts and culture opportunities for our community, hopefully attract new and emerging artists here. So this grant would then be funneled through the current organizations that have the Artist in Residency program, which is the Kester Arts Center, but the language is there that should another group come forward with the program, they would be able to access this as well. So similar to other grants, the funding would go through the organization, and they would then distribute the funds to the artists. They would already be accepted. And as part of the program, they would do activities throughout the municipality for our public to engage with.
That is the way to go. That is the way to go.
The only question I have, if I may, is $3,000 a meaningful amount? And I'm not trying to jack it up.
No.
I could tell Councillor Church already stiffened up, but,
I would say in,
but $3,000, does that really attract an artist to this area? It seems like it's a small amount.
in the review I did, I saw 325.
Okay. All right, well,
I mean, and again, this is something that can be reviewed again later if it's a huge
it
demand.
sounds like the principle is, the committee seems happy with the
Yeah.
principle that you're seeking out, the amount, maybe when budget time, you may wanna just keep that somewhat open. It just, you want it to be meaningful. I
Yeah.
presume that this 3,000 came from consultations with the stakeholders, or is it just your research?
Research and consultations,
Okay.
both, yeah.
Oh, maybe it's okay, I don't know.
So, second new grant would be a specific events and festivals grant to show that we're open for business for this. This touches on tourism goals. Actually, Tourism Nova Scotia in their newest strategy just identified events as a major driving force for year-round tourism and something that they're focusing on. So again, to show that we're open to draw in more small and medium-sized events into our community and encourage growth from within. Proposing a sort of two streams, a single-day event up to 3,000 the municipality would put in, and a multi-day one up to 5,000. And we have some eligible expenses there. Review would still sit with Recreation Committee. And would just help foster more events in our community.
No feedback? Councillor Asif?
I'd just like to go back to the $3,000 grant for the emerging artists.
Oh, okay,
Arts and Residency.
Art. To me, that's plenty, and I'll tell you why.
okay.
If I'm an emerging artist and I get a chance for a 3,000, what they call them starving artists for a reason.
Correct,
They- So I think 3,000 would be sufficient.
perfect.
Me too.
Thank you.
Councillor Asif wants to keep them on their knees. Good.
I will admit, obviously there are other sources of funding. This is just an additional level. Okay. Okay, back, anything for the events and festivals? Again, in the research, these are the levels that I saw from other municipalities, because again, there are various levels of funding for events and festivals. It just shows the municipality's commitment and want for events.
Yeah, so just one comment from myself, so just thinking about our broader grants program, is that if we were to proceed with an events and festivals grant, it would be nice to have some clear direction, because I think one of the things that we've run into in the past with grant applications is what makes the most sense for the project that the group is presenting, right? And so sometimes when we have a group that is wanting to put on an event that is totally makes sense as a recreation grant. In the past, when we had council grants and operating grants, a group could also apply through there. And then, of course, there's also the district grant. And so there's kind of multiple options where we may funnel an application for events and festivals. So I think that's just something to keep in mind, you know, as councillors, as you're all talking with community groups in your districts, is that if somebody is looking for funding for an event specific, that this would be, you know, it would be a new option, and this is probably where we would direct most folks. And so then that also, you need to take that in consideration when it comes to the rest of your grants budget. And so right now, if all of our events are being supported through your district grants or through a recreation grant, or so how now is that going to impact our other grant programs? So just something to be thoughtful of, and that's probably when we come back at budget time, that's probably going to be a point of discussion. Yeah.
Councillor Brevner?
I am fully in favor of this. I think we have to grow. We have to give opportunities for people to put events on and support, you know, not paying the whole shot, but offering opportunity to be partners with them. I had the pleasure this past weekend to be down in the village of Chester with the Christmas, and one of the things I was told many times, thanks for helping us out as council, because the event does not go on without the funding, and funding is what grows. And if you saw those children and the adults down there having a good time, that's what it was all about. There was more smiles and opportunities and happiness for participation. So I fully support this.
So these 3,000 or 5,000 that are shown here, those would be, the applicant would be, that's what they would be available. Well, what the bucket that this is coming from, how much would be in there? That's the interesting part, because we have a number of,
Yeah.
we have Race Week, we have the art, I think there's an art week here, the New Ross Christmas Festival on behalf of Councillor Connors. We have others, and obviously the purpose of this is to hopefully maybe get people thinking. Maybe there'll be something in Hubbards or, you know, or Western Shore in the years to come. So like what does this bucket look like that eventually we can hopefully grow and make more interesting and engaging community activities?
And I think that's a little bit what I was alluding to when, you know, thinking about the bigger picture of the grants program. So, yeah, is this a new bucket as you refer to? Like, are we creating new, you know, adding new budget to be able to support this? Or is it, you know, taking a little bit from some of our other programs grant programs to put in here? Or how does that break down? So I guess that's a question of council, is like, what, so if you know, if you think about the number of events and festivals that we have, or what we want to grow them to, what's an appropriate total budget in order to support those kind of $3,000, $5,000 requests? So I think that's really what we're really going to have to kind of wrap our heads around what that looks like.
I think that'll be an exciting discussion, because I think, you know, we want it to grow. I think when people see events happening in their communities, I think it gives a lot of pride. And it's so accessible. It's you know, it's free to just walk around and see what's going on, and it allows people to feel connected to their neighbors. So I can't wait to see what staff comes up with for funding this.
All right. And last one. This came from direct feedback from my engagement with our Mi'kmaq communities. To have a specific Mi'kmaq Arts and Culture project grants. It would also help further our work on truth and reconciliation, call to action number 14, which is around cultural revitalization. It would also help increase our community's access to Mi'kmaq arts and culture. And help push those events. I do have buy-in from Wasohobans to Baganagity to help review those applications. Because a big part is that the artists and people applying would need to identify their Mi'kmaq identity to be eligible for this grant, but it would help further culture revitalization and Mi'kmaq arts and culture in our community.
Warden Weber.
Well, I guess it's, you know, like what portion of our total budget are?
We would have to discuss that, yeah.
Yeah, like, you know, when.
And in my scan,
Are they eligible even if we don't, they're eligible even if we don't have a special category, are they not?
correct, but in speaking with our communities, because of the significant historical barriers
Oh, I get, this one here, there is historical significance, yeah.
to have a specific stream honoring that community is a huge
Yeah, well, I guess my
step
biggest
forward.
concern then is what portion of the total is for this specific program as opposed to in general.
It would be the same discussion as with the events and festivals. Like last year's budget was over $550,000. We could then estimate a percentage to help grow festivals. But we have 2 Mi'kmaq communities that we are a part of, so it would help with our good relationship building.
Councillor Bremner.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. I want this a two-way street. Okay, I want our Mi'kmaq folks and us working together in building futures. I don't want it one-sided. I don't want us kicking everything one way, and it has to be, and that's going to take some communications, some building trust, and working together. So I think these are good small steps to build that future, because let's be honest, we can't do everything alone. And they have opportunities and we have reasons to work with them. They have reasons to work with us. So I think that's very key to part of the growth and the development that we talk about at our community growth strategy plan, you know, is strategically working with who have been in this community and our municipality for a long time, longer than us. We need to work with them and learn with them and work with them. So,
And
thank you.
just to give a little numbers backup, Indigenous tourism did generate $3.7 billion in 2023. That was the most recent number I could find, and it's one of the fastest growing industries.
For where?
That was countrywide.
Okay, well, that's a big area.
So,
It's a big number in a big
and
area.
I can say that Mi'kmaq are,
How much in here at Chester?
I couldn't find specific numbers for Nova Scotia, but it's a fast growing industry. Oh, are you okay?
She should go home.
Okay.
Programs are being launched with Isitin and Mi'kmaq-Wet'suwet'en, which is their
Okay.
artisan program through their communities. So it's a growing industry that we want to be a part of.
Okay.
Okay.
I personally don't know how I feel about that. I have to think about that for a little while, but, you know, reading the body language, it seems, the committee seems okay with the proposal so far.
Depending on the percentage.
Yeah.
Okay. And so next steps would be
That's it.
to come back at
The
budget
changes.
time, come back with the changes that you requested, review,
Okay,
Oh,
so,
okay.
I think we're gonna take a little
Yeah.
break here. We gotta get rid of the old coffee and get some new coffee. Yeah. All right, we're live, great. Moving on to topic number, let's turn off that mic. Moving on to topic 2, we're gonna discuss committees of council. Terry, are you leading this, or Aaron?
Erin.
Aaron, okay.
You can turn your mic on.
Oh, okay.
So this is a presentation that council requested we bring back. We had a policy and strategy session back in June where we discussed an overarching committee's policy for council's consideration. So at that policy and strategy session, council gave direction to staff to do 2 things. One was to bring back an overarching policy of committees, and one was to bring back information for a conversation around the number of committees we have, and whether or not there's opportunities to look at consolidation, reduction, or keeping it as is. So before the committees of council policy is developed, staff thought it was prudent to bring back that overall committee's discussion first, because it would help inform the content of that overarching policy. So we have a list here of 2 slides of our current committees of council at the municipality. I have a note on the second one, so dangerous and unsightly premises committee is not in the slide, as you may have noticed, because we are discussing that separately. So we'll leave that for that separate discussion. And we also have a couple of committees, or a few committees that are legislated, so they're also not part of this discussion. This work came from our junior policy analyst at the time, who did a lot of work over the summer meeting with staff and getting staff's input on committees that we have and the department leads that are sitting on those committees, and in order to inform any options for council's consideration when it comes to looking at the makeups of our committees. So the first section is committees where council might want change. This is based on feedback. And I'm going to go through each one by one, and if council would like, we can discuss each one at a time, or I can get through them all. Just stop me as I go along and let me know your preference.
Go one by one and
One by one,
discuss.
okay. So the first one is the EDI Advisory Committee, and this is our municipal committee. It was created in 2020 as part of the development of our local EDI action plan. And some of the feedback received and from staff who are involved in the committee has been that the use of the committee in terms of the terms of reference, a lot of it is council refers items to the committee for advice. So that hasn't happened a lot. And then in terms of the policy, also states that the committee has the ability to reference things up to council and advise council on matters that they're hearing in the community. So there's a note here that on its own accord, that's been done a few times over 2024, but not as often during 2025. We have had a reduction in meetings based on committee feedback because of the agenda just being light in terms of trying to pull an agenda together for a monthly meeting. So now we are meeting on a bi-monthly basis. So based on feedback, options council could consider, one would be to dissolve the committee. If council gave direction for staff to go in that direction. Other methods of consultation and engagement could be used to obtain that critical EDI input from the community groups that are underrepresented, and we've listed some. So consultants is an option. There could be focus groups set up ad hocly on specific items to get advice on. There's also an option where our communications officer has mentioned before, which is sort of like a citizens panel idea where she would go out to the community and look for residents who identify from certain community groups who could have a listserv where they provide feedback and in the form of surveys or perhaps focus groups again. And then for the local context, because some of those groups could be a region-based group, so such as Lunenburg Pride would be an example where it spans all of Lunenburg County. And then for the local context, we certainly have local nonprofits that do a lot of work in this space. If refining its mandate is another option for the EDI Advisory Committee, and some of the ways that could be done is looking at the scope of the committee. So it could be changed in order to perhaps review our local action plan on an annual or biannual basis and provide feedback only on the progress of the plan.
Warden Weber?
Yeah, no, I just, this is the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee.
Our local one.
Yeah, I know it's our local one, but we are just about in the process of dissolving the regional one, which may change the role of the local one to some, I guess I can't say too much, I suppose, but it's just, it may change things. So I'm just wondering if we shouldn't potentially hold off on it until we know what's happening on the regional level.
Councillor Asif.
A lot of the, I mean, I was on the EDI committee from the start, but I think, and I didn't know this because I just don't know, but our HR policies have a lot of stuff in it to this effect, I think. I mean, I don't know, but I've learned that. So, to Alan's point, we probably should leave it alone for right now. Like, just put it on pause maybe, because of what might turn out, and I think that's what we might have to do with this committee.
Well, its role's gonna change.
Yeah,
Councillor Church.
Thank you. I think we fulfilled our mandate as a municipality that's required by the province. So really, do we need this committee? We fulfilled our role and we have changed things accordingly in our municipality with our, HR policies, et cetera. I don't know that we need this committee anymore. I mean, I'm willing to wait until things are resolved over the Lunenburg County one, but I'm not so sure that we really do need the committee anymore.
Well, I'm not either, it's just that.
Councillor Bremner.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. I would share the same sentiment with that because I believe we've incorporated it in so many ways, and we will stay focused on that. I know that that's not going to disappear, but to have another committee, we're committee to death when we look at it in many ways, and some of them have served their purpose. So I would be supportive of this one being dissolved if we wait or whatever we do, but I just don't want it to linger on for another 2 years and say, oh, we didn't know, because that's not the ambition that I want. I want to see us make the right opportunities for the next committee that may take its place or what will ever happen with it. So we're in support of this. I believe it. We have incorporated it. We don't need the committee.
Councillor Warden Weber.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that we shouldn't dissolve it either. It's just that I know that there's other stuff taking place that may have an impact, and, that's all.
And I'll provide my input here if it's okay with the committee. I think we oftentimes will start initiatives for the right reasons and then we continue on for the wrong reasons. And the original intent of this committee was to create our EDI policy and strategy, which we have now. We've completed that work. We're implementing the recommendations as they come to council. And we, at the same time, we undertook this regional effort or whatever to try to make sure there was no, make sure that regionally we were coordinated, which is fine. And the warden has alluded that we may be looking at that as well. But I'll give you one example of we used to have the LP, Maybeck, whatever, liaison committee. And originally it was the regulator environment required that we had a liaison committee with the community, and it was a requirement of their permit. And after a period of time, that requirement stopped. Yet it remained for many years as a committee of council. It could have been led by a community group outside of council, or it didn't need to be government at that point, but we stayed with it. And I don't see that as being wise. We have very few volunteers that serve on our committees, and when we continue to go back to the same watering hole all the time to try to bring volunteers to serve, it's a problem. So I serve on this EDI committee now, and I can say that I don't see a lot of value in our monthly. We're struggling to come up with enough so-called work to meet because the policy framework is already completed. So I think sometimes when you have something that deals with like a sensitive topic like inclusion, we're afraid to say, okay, what the committee's done, we can disband, as if it signals to the public that we aren't gonna support the initiatives. But that's not the case. I see us disbanding this committee as a victory. What we're saying is we've completed this now, not that you could ever complete, you know, DEI, I suppose, but we've completed the thing that we set out to do, and now we're implementing it, and the committee is no longer required. I don't see that as stepping away from it. I see that as the next step. So my opinion would be, I would be happy to dissolve it today. I've actually made that recommendation in confidence to the CEO. So that's my opinion on it for what it's worth, from somebody who's on the committee.
I would like to note, I think it's important to clarify too, that the work is not nearly done. We have the action plan, and that is a very critical part of the work. But each of the items that we have to work through in the action plan, they're still there, and we do need input. And so I think what I'm hearing is a direction perhaps to come back with an official decision on dissolving the committee. And I just wanted to note that with that, and I've mentioned in there around consultants and focus groups, that if there is action items that specifically require input, EDI-related input, that we as staff are not equipped to provide, those requests for decisions on those action items will come back to council with that information and those requests. So I just want to be transparent with that.
So instead of coming back to a committee and getting their take, and then getting that take up to council to make a decision, why not just come straight to council and ask us? To me, I feel like that extra layer is not required, you know? There's no reason why, if staff needs feedback on a DEI initiative, like what's the problem with just coming back like any other, you know? If it was an economic development, you know, strategy, and there was something to come back as an initiative, you wouldn't strike a committee to go to the committee first and then get the committee to make a recommendation to us, you know, staff would come directly. You know, I don't see any value here. And I'm on the committee. It's a waste of time. We're not doing anything.
Understood. Okay. Anything?
If something happens regionally that makes us reconsider.
This is not us abandoning the initiatives at all. We still have the strategy. We're implementing it.
Yeah.
It's just the require for public feedback is sort of like we're not getting anything from it now.
Okay, the next item is the Heritage Advisory Committee, and Chad is in the room to help with this one if required. So the feedback received is that this committee has been relatively inactive over the last number of years, but it's not because of eagerness of the committee members or value of input from the committee members. It has to do with the mandate of the committee is about heritage registrations, and there just isn't a lot of them. And so we are legislated to have this under the Heritage Property Act as a committee. But one option for council's consideration is that it could be consolidated with the MPAC. That would meet the legislative requirement. It would create some efficiencies with staff time. And the two committee members that are currently on the Heritage Advisory Committee could certainly become members of MPAC, where that heritage advice would certainly be valued and would come to play if there was any other registrations that came to the municipality.
Sounds good.
Gordon Weber.
Well, I'm just in favor of just including it in MPAC, yeah, it just makes sense, yeah.
You have your body language.
Okay? We'll come back with an RFD for that.
Great.
As well. The Village Planning Advisory Committee has had the same core members for many years and does not, the feedback received does not meet as often, but it is very active, obviously, during the village planning strategy. New village planning strategy has more requirements for development agreements, so there is potential this could mean more files for the committee to review. That's just a no for council's information. Some options, it's the same option that staff had with the Heritage Advisory Committee, which is an option for you to consider, is consolidating with MPAC as well. So this would reduce some staff time on committees. Similar advantages for adding the Heritage Advisory Committee to MPAC. And committee conversations would not only focus on what is best for the village, but also what is best for the municipality at large.
I agree with that.
Councillor Bremner.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Every community we have has uniqueness, but we are a municipality. And I believe it is time that we looked at it that way. And when the items come up for individual communities, they can fall under this joint. And I'd like to see all three put together, because then it would be a package of completion, in my opinion, to be able to address heritage, to be able to address growth, or requests for changes, or whatever falls under it. And the three make sense to me. I know there will definitely be people that oppose to that because they're very into where they're at and what they do, and I appreciate that, but we are a bigger picture than just one community or 7 individual districts. We are a municipality, and I think that's where my focus leads to. And, you know, are we gonna grow now and then Hubbards have their own individual community group? You know, we have to work together to support the needs of where we know we need to go and how this municipality will grow and develop together, supporting each other in all ways and all opportunities when needed. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I can echo that sentiment. I feel like the growth is happening outside the village, so we're gonna see an increasing number of development agreement applications and more work around how to plan out those areas. So I think maybe in years gone by, it wasn't that way. I think that there is a recognition amongst council, staff, and the public that Chester is somewhat unique, but it has its own zoning and policy around it for that reason. So I have every confident that a combined MPAC would be able to work through that and do a great job. And frankly, I think the burden from VPAC would be added to that committee would be quite low compared with what they're gonna see on the outside of the village anyway. So, yeah, I'm in support of combining it.
So am I.
All right, good. Everybody's nodding their heads, that's great.
Okay.
Okay.
The final committee that there's recommendations or options for council's consideration is the Citizens Landfill Committee. So it is pretty inactive. It is required for operation permit right now, issued to Kaiser Meadow by Department of Environment. However, the permit can be amended, and we did reach out to the province in terms of would this be possible, and they've indicated that they are open to the consideration of it. So if council so desired for us to pursue that, we could do that after today's.
Yeah, the application for the permit renewal has actually gone in, and it went in with a request that it be taken out as a requirement. So if it's taken out as a requirement and that's approved by the province, then that would give us the ability to get rid of the committee. If they keep it in there, then we would need to revisit this.
Councillor Church?
Thank you. Just comment, I know the committee has been inactive. We've gone through numerous staff changes out at the landfill there for a time. We didn't, have a supervisor there. It was difficult to have a meeting. I get that. It's just that the committee was formed initially kind of as a liaison committee with the community. And in the first years, it was more active. And we haven't had any issues. I'm just concerned that, our reports to the community or whatever, I think that some reports still need to come to council just for our consideration. They do something like a fish study report, and just so that we're updated. We don't want to appear that we're just trying to sweep something under the rug, which we're not. But I know right now we have 2 active committee members. A couple have deceased since we started the committee. I mean, what can I say? I'm fine with it, but I think we definitely need to have reports coming to council, and if there's a need in the future that we have to revisit it, if we have issues out there, I think we can revisit it.
Nova Scotia Enviro would make us revisit that anyways. If there was a influx of issues that happened, they would put that back in as a permit requirement.
So if they let us get rid of it, we'll get rid of it.
Councillor Brebner.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Another fine example of where we need to review things quite often. This is, in my opinion, outdated, and if we don't have to have it, it would be something I would encourage. We have a Director of Waste Management in our facility, and everybody knows how to reach us as councillors and reach them, and I think the times have changed, so I would support this being removed if the option is available. Thank you.
That's great. And overall, generally, I'm really pleased that we're having these discussions because even in my life outside of municipal government, I've been on boards where we have many meetings, and the reduction of meetings dramatically reduces the workload on staff. So like all these meetings for all these separate committees, if we can somehow push them together, that's going to reduce our workload and allow us to do more meaningful work rather than reporting. We can actually be working on the issues rather than just talking about what we're going to do. So I'm really pleased with this direction, so that's great. There you go.
And that, yes, so the rest of the presentation is around committees that staff recommend stay status quo, or that we haven't heard any considerations where changes could be made. But they're there for council's review in case there's other feedback you'd like to give today or direction on those items. But otherwise, staff will be bringing back reports to a regular council meeting outlining the direction received today on the other committees.
One comment. Oh, sorry, Councillor Bremner.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Just out of the three that I'm looking at, the Fire Advisory Committee, we are all aware that the province is looking at the bigger picture, and that could change drastically in spring, summer of next year, maybe fall. I think we should be aware of what it says now and then what it could grow into, and be understanding of that we have 7 very respectful volunteer organizations, as well as many others in different organizations, that we will possibly in this one be looking at a revamping of this completely in less than a year's time. So that's a bigger picture for what's there now, leave it as it is. But again, as an active member of that committee, I believe it's got a great purpose now, but it could change drastically in less than 8 months, and we'll see where it goes. Thank you.
Great. And I presume that the Recreation and Parks Committee, are we gonna take any grants that we develop on, like as we discussed before, on the potentially the art side? Is that gonna be pushed into this as one hybrid committee, supporting the arts and recreation together? That's the plan?
Yeah, so I think as in a couple of the slides there.
Short answer is yes.
I think the short answer is yes, and especially with the new grants that were created, the idea was to have them go through the same process.
So, sorry, I didn't get your mic on.
Sorry.
For the benefit of those that are watching, I'm sure we have hundreds, maybe thousands of people watching.
So yeah, I think the idea, as Ashley had presented, was some of those new grant programs. The option for council is to have them go through the similar process as the recreation grants, which I think all council remembers that those grants come in, staff review, they go to the recreation committee for discussion and recommendation to council. So I think that is set up as an option with those new grants that were proposed, and I think one that was slightly different would be the Mi'kmaq grant, and I think that was a different review committee. But the other one, the special events would be handled similar to the recreation grants, unless council would prefer a different review process.
Yeah, I think grant recommendations are crucial. I mean, for council to decide if we have an applicant looking to go to a curling championship versus some soccer thing somewhere, or something like that, how would council be able to decide? You know, we'll leave that to a committee to decide, keep it at arm's length, I think. And if we can combine everything together under one roof, that's all the better. Yeah, that's so much. Yeah.
When we come back, we could come back with a revised terms of reference, I think, for this that incorporates some of that potentially.
Yeah.
All right. We're moving along then. Were you ready to talk about building an unsightly premises committee? Oh boy.
So, there was some direction from council, but not a lot of direction from council on this one. So, the direction was for staff to bring back a report on the Building and Unsightly Premises Committee and how it operates, and to have some discussion with council and to see if there is any interest in perhaps changing the way that our structure is currently operating. So I put together a few slides. I won't take I won't spend a ton of time, but just wanted to give a little bit of background on the committee and how it's set up and how it's structured. So essentially, we get our authority from the Municipal Government Act, and so there is a dangerous and unsightly premises section within the Municipal Government Act, and that kind of gives us our authority to carry out the duties with respect to unsightly properties. So, and there is, so the MGA kind of outlines very specifically and how we can and can't proceed with unsightly. So, in the Municipal Government Act, Section 345(1), that council may, by policy, delegate some or all of its authority pursuant to this part, except the authority to order demolition to the administrator. So essentially, if there is a situation where we are ordering a demolition of a building, that has to come back to council. That doesn't go to the committee. We don't have, the authority doesn't lie there. That stays within council. But we do have the ability through policy to delegate the authority for unsightly. And so we do have a policy, policy P80, dangerous or unsightly premises policy, and that policy is very brief. There's not a lot of content in there because most of it refers to the Municipal Government Act. However, within our policy, it does, the council does delegate its authority to declare a property as unsightly to the committee. And so that's where some of our decision-making lies around unsightly properties. It does go through that committee. And there, so the dangerous portion of that is the authority is given to the administrator. So in our case, it's our bylaw enforcement officer. So if we have a property that has a dangerous situation, the bylaw officer goes out and deals with that. If we have an unsightly property, that comes back to the committee for review. So the committee itself, so the committee is the one that determines whether or not a property is unsightly or not. And then the bylaw enforcement officer is the one that has the authority to then bring that property into compliance. And so we work very much through an education process, that we work with property owners to try and convince them to clean their property, and that happens through conversations. At some point in time, if it progresses, there are letters that are issued and warnings, and then that progresses into orders. And so we have those conversations with the committee, and the committee can provide some of that guidance as to how bylaw enforcement follows through on those unsightly properties. So I also just wanted to throw in there, so the next few slides are just the definition of dangerous unsightly. So just in case there's any question about what the heck is an unsightly property. So the Municipal Government Act is our guiding document when we are determining whether a property is unsightly or not. And so I won't go through all that, but I just thought I'd include it in there so that everyone is aware of exactly what the committee is working with when they are determining whether or not a property is unsightly or not.
Hold that thought. Councillor Asif.
Yeah, to me, it seems like another layer, but, so all these are complaint driven, obviously.
Correct.
So when you get a call of a complaint, it goes to the committee sends the bylaw officer out. So wouldn't it be just when we receive a complaint to go directly to the bylaw officer?
So normally what would happen is when a complaint comes in, that the bylaw officer usually does respond first, because we need to go out and investigate to determine, you know, was it a frivolous complaint and there actually isn't anything there. So the bylaw officer will go out, do a site visit, usually snap some photos, and then bring that back to the committee. And then the committee reviews the photos, reviews the information provided by the bylaw officer, and then makes a determination of whether or not it's unsightly.
Doesn't the bylaw officer have that authority to make that determination?
As it stands right now, no, because our policy says that authority lies within the committee. So, so that's part of what's up for discussion today. So just a little bit on the committee itself. So our committee membership is 2 councillors, plus the warden is ex officio, and so the warden typically acts as the chair of that committee. And the quorum obviously is 2 members, so if somebody can't make it, we normally would cancel those meetings. Meetings are held bi-monthly, so we do set that up on a bi-monthly basis, but if a meeting isn't required, then we wouldn't hold it. But the opposite is true as well. If we have a pressing file that needs discussion, and if that needs to happen before the bi-monthly meeting, then we may have meetings more frequent than bi-monthly as well. So that's how the committee is set up. And then to Councillor Asia's point, the way that the agendas are set up is we do have a building inspector report. So especially if we have any reports from from our building officials related to demolition. So if there's an unsafe structure, we always involve our building officials, as they are the ones that have the expertise to go in and determine whether or not a structure is safe or not, or whether it needs to be classified as needing demolition. So that happens on the agenda, and then it's our bylaw enforcement officer report, and he would bring forward any new files or any progress updates on those files that are currently open. And then the committee makes motions based on all of those files to determine next step. And so that is classifying whether a property is unsightly or not, whether or not any orders need to be issued, or, and this does happen, we do close files as well. So in a file, we determine that a property owner has made sufficient progress and has brought the property into compliance, and then we would close the file as well. And so all that is done through the committee and their agendas. So the role of council, as mentioned before, so council does retain its authority to order those demolitions, and as well, council would hold any appeal hearing. So if somebody was to appeal an order for demolition, that would come back to council as well. So that's kind of the role of council within all of this. So I did do a quick reach out to some of our neighboring municipalities just to see how they're structured. And so we are a little bit of an outlier, and I don't know if this is the same across the province. So I didn't do a broader reach out, but I certainly can do that. But I suspect that it would be, I think we would probably see similar results around the province, is that most municipalities have the authority to declare a property as unsightly through their staff and through their, usually their bylaw officers. But we do have an example of our neighboring municipality with the Municipality District of Lunenburg, that they actually use their building officials as part of doing some of this bylaw enforcement as well. So the dealing with the unsightly properties in there, it happens through their bylaw, or sorry, their building officials. Sorry to be confusing. So their building officials are the ones that essentially act as their administrator, and then they do have a committee, and the committee consists of 5 councillors, and the committee is the one that hears any appeals based on the direction given by the administrator. So if the building officials make a determination that a property is unsightly and they issue orders, any of those appeals from the property owners about those orders go back to that committee for review. So that's a little bit how our neighbors are structured, and like I say, I can reach out to broader around the province, but I suspect that I haven't come across another municipality that has the same structure as us, which is kind of interesting. Not to say that it's right or wrong, it's just that this is the way we've been doing it for a number of years, and that's where we're at.
Warden Weber.
It's not that I want to talk, but it's just that Tina and Clarissa are both on the committee.
They are.
And neither one of them are here. And I would be shocked if Tina doesn't have quite a bit to say about this committee. And, I mean, she's generally speaking the one who wants the updates more so than anyone else. Do I think that we could make it more efficient, give staff more flexibility? Yes, but.
Yeah. So there are a few options presented on
Councilor Bremner.
Oh, sorry.
I think this is one that definitely needs to, thank you, Deputy Warden. I think this is one that definitely needs an uptake in every avenue of it. If I remember right, we were here debating something, and at a council meeting, it was said one or more councillors has been on that committee since the start, and nothing has been able to be done, and it's just gone around in circles. That is so not what we should be about. We all know in our areas we have challenges that need to be addressed, and I appreciate the approach that staff has taken. I want to put more confidence into staff, because we shouldn't be making the decision that is already handled by a professional that knows more about how to deal with it, or should know more to deal with it than we do. And I think the appeal is okay to come back, But I do believe the first number of steps to decision has to be modified, and this whole thing needs to be looked at in a different way. And I appreciate the two councillors that aren't here where they'll have views on it too. So needed to say that. I think it's important that we look at the future, not where we've been, and not set in spinning our wheels. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the only other thing that I was gonna add on, with the options that are presented, that if council did go in the direction of dissolving this committee and not using the committee to, you know, declare a property as unsightly as that, there would need to be some reporting mechanism set up and put into place so that council does stay connected and informed of what's happening with that work, because I think that is, really important, because you know, being part of that committee, I know that a lot of the calls, they come to our office, some of the complaints do, but an awful lot of the calls go directly to the councillors as well. And so to keep councillors up to date and involved with how things are progressing would be really important. And so we'd have to figure out a way of how that reporting would happen back to council to keep you all informed of what's happening. In that.
Councillor Ace, if I see you, but the CAO wants to interject.
This is just a quick one. The MGA allows council to delegate authority to an administrator, with the exception of the ability to order demolitions. So that would still be coming to council as well, just so you know. I just wanted to point that out.
Councillor Ace, if
Yeah, and I think, Chad, that it's important for us to keep in the loop. And I think that from what I'm hearing too, anyway, is this is just some way to clean this, clean it up. I mean, if I'm the person going out to look at the property and I deem it that it's unsunk, I mean, if we don't have enough confidence in our staff to make that kind of decision and come back, I mean, if he comes back with the committee, the committee's gonna take the recommendation of the staff, of the staff member, that's the administrator. So I think, I'm not gonna speak for the other councillor on the committee, but I think Tina would be fine if what you said, Chad, that we have reports of what's going on, and that can be done through the administrator when he's at a certain property. I don't think that's anything difficult. I think that's probably a nice way to clean it up, make sure that we get the report from the staff administrator. And the fact that Tara said, I mean, we're not gonna demolish a property, he's not gonna be able to make that decision. That'll still come back to us. And they have appeals, and there's other mechanisms that they can use. So this is a good cleanup, I think. Not to use it. Anyway, thank you.
Councillor Bremner.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. I think Councillor East stole my thunder, but not trying to be a stuffed gramophone. We need to communicate more with staff as council, and staff needs to deal more with council. I've gone many times and got approval by the CAO to go talk to staff about things. We traditionally like not to be part of things, but we have to be part of things and knowing what the education or the concerns are going to be that come to us. And I do appreciate that more modern way of doing things. And the one complaint I get is, do you even know this is going on as a counselor? And sometimes I'm lost because I don't. And I think that is a huge loss to our credibility, how we respond with the building trust with our residents and our constituents, and how staff and we relate back and forth. Thank you.
I will say that I think that communication, I agree that communication is really important, and I think that the members of the committee currently, they are aware of the files, and there are files that are very complex. There are a lot of files that have an extremely long history and are very challenging. And so I think that happens right now through those committee members, and so that communication absolutely would be really key going forward, so that you know of when there is progress and when there are successes, and also when there's not, and when there are challenging files that seem to be not moving forward, and how we can work more diligently on those ones.
Solicitor?
Yeah, I just have a couple of comments. Over the years, I've worked with this committee various times, and although there's a definition of what's unsightly, it's not black and white. And one of the reasons why I remember years ago why council wanted to have a committee with their involvement is because there's judgment calls have to be made, and part of it is the context of the community and background and so on and so forth. So I'm not saying no, don't go ahead with this, but I think the council would still want to have a feedback so they know what's going on, if something's happening. And the other thing is, if there's going to be enforcement, then at some point in time, council's gonna have to authorize money for that enforcement, be it through prosecution, or you're gonna make a court application for an order, that kind of thing. So, so I guess it would be, unless you allocated a budget for enforcement, in which case the enforcement officer could proceed on their own with enforcement, provided they didn't exceed whatever the budget is or something. But I don't think there is a budget right now.
Yeah, no, we do.
Do you have a
some
budget?
We do have some funds there.
Yeah, but, I mean, typically they go back though and get authorization to expend those.
It depends on the situation, but
Yeah, yeah.
a lot of times we
Yeah.
go back to the committee for that.
Well, you know, we got two counselors. I know you want to jump in, but I'm going to let them go first, because I can do that. Counselor Church.
Thank you. I'm sort of leaning to option two, but I feel that we have some properties that are on the unsightly premises list for, I'm thinking 10-plus years.
20.
That shouldn't be. There needs to be an end date. You know, I think that's pretty generous on our part. We have, I don't know if legislatively we can do it, but there needs to be something that, you know, like a projected end date, like to give the property owners time, but 10, 20 years, I don't know that that's realistic.
Yeah, may I?
Okay.
So I guess just in response to that is absolutely there are files that have been open prior to me taking into this role. And I think part of the reason, without getting into any specific files, is that it's the magnitude of some of those properties. And so what it would require in order to bring some of those properties into compliance, it would be a very significant budget that would be required, and that would either, if it wasn't covered by the municipality, or if the municipality undertook the work and then tried to recuperate the money, there would be significant life-altering impacts on those property owners. And so I think that's part of the rationale for some of those larger files. So, and perhaps that is maybe another meeting for another day, is some of those files and some of those properties that are of a large magnitude. And if the council has a wish to make some more timely progress on some of those, then I think we would probably have to have a more detailed discussion on exactly how we would carry that out, because I don't think that we'd be in a position for a staff to be making that type of a decision, so.
Warden Weber.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm all in favor of revitalizing this and making it simpler for staff to just go out and do these things. But where the conversations generally come in at the committee level is that we know the relationship between the person who complains and the person they're complaining about. Mm-hmm. And we know the health conditions of the person who's being complained about, or the financial situation of the person who's being complained about. And we know that, okay, why aren't you complaining about that neighbor who's just one house down that way, and you, just because you don't like this guy? So there's those things, and I don't particularly enjoy being on the committee, and I don't necessarily want to waste my time being there. But we do need to, whatever we do, we need to have some sort of a process where the councillor whose district it's in gets involved in the conversation, because there are so many circumstances sometimes which aren't very obvious.
I would tend to agree, Alan. I think that is one of the values of the current structure, is that so we don't have all councillors around the table, but the councillors that have a file in their district and they know that history, that can help in trying to bring some conclusion to those properties, or to give a little bit of context. And so generally we have a very clear separation between council role and staff role, but perhaps in this instance moving forward, if there wasn't a committee, perhaps there would be some connection between the staff member and councillor that would be a little bit outside the box, but just to make sure that we have some of that context for some of those files, perhaps. So I'm not sure what that would look like, but.
No, well, I mean, I know it's obvious that, like, if I'm aware of something, I'll sometimes go speak to the person whose property it is and tell them, if you don't do something, it's coming to council, because I've been called a half a dozen times, so go clean it up, or else you're gonna be forced to, you know, like, so you're dealing with people, not just the mess. I mean, the unsightly, the dangerous part is simple. That part is simple. It's the unsightly part that's a little bit more complex.
Councillor Bremner?
Thank you, Deputy Warden. I think one of many calls that I get has to do with that we have no teeth in our bylaw for unsightly properties and dealing with those issues. Again, going back, I know every one of them has a unique thing. I want to say what Solicitor Lamy said. We have had committee in the past. I think that time needs to be looked at, how we change it. I would be in favor of option 3, where we only get involved when the appeal comes through, because we take our emotions out of it and let it to the professionals that I feel are well-trained or should be well-trained to deal with it. I think policy is so outdated and so in desperate need of a complete rebuild, and dealing with, we can work with people, but we have to come to a line at some point that we have to make decisions. We shouldn't have that minor thing. When it becomes a major issue, we can be involved somehow as communications, but we have to look at this in a different way. It's just wasting our time otherwise. Thank you.
I'll jump in at this point. Two items were sort of highlighted to me. One, enforceability, or teeth, if you will. You know, on the unsightly part, there is shades of gray, for sure. I think we can appreciate that. When something says, you know, the condition of which seriously depreciates the value of land or buildings in the vicinity. So imagine, if you will, I'm just going to dream up a random scenario that you might have, like a house on a lot that's 1/3 of an acre, and let's say that every part of the lot is covered with old cars that weren't there 8-9 years ago, but now it's completely filled up. The entire, every bit of the property is filled up with old cars. Would you say that that condition would seriously depreciate the value of the land or buildings in the vicinity? I think it might. I think it might. I think it could be definitely argued. But what enforcement action would we undertake if we were let's say in that random, I'm just thinking out loud, not anybody in particular, just a random thought. If you were in that scenario, would we take action on that property, or would we just do nothing? What would we do, Chad?
Well, right now it goes to the committee for a decision, so the committee would determine whether or not that's unsightly or not, and then action would be taken from that point.
So, and, you know, and that strikes on something else that kind of, bothers me a little bit, because the strength that we tout as like understanding the situation, as Warden Weber mentioned, also becomes our weakness, because it adds politics into this decision. You know, if somebody's sick or not sick or whatever, these situations, if somebody decides they're too sick to take their garbage to the curb and they just let it pile in the front yard, they just throw it out the door. And after 2, 3, 5 years, there's a mountain of garbage there. You know, and it's at that point, it's such an overwhelming problem that that sick person can't then deal with it. But if on day one, they would have made some arrangements for somebody to help or whatever, that would have never happened. And I understand that in this hypothetical situation, the sickness, you know, you feel sympathy for the person, but we tend to, in those situations, also forget about taking sympathy for the people that have to live around it. And that's the problem. You know, when we have files that come back over and over again for 10, 20 years, like these are like a quarter of your neighbor's life is dealing with this property, and you have no ability to get away from it. You're trapped. It's like being in a hostile workplace where somebody's, you know, treating you badly, and you have to go to work every day to provide for your family. You have no choice. You have got to go there every day, whether they treat you badly or not. That's what it's like for these people. They go there and they have to live next to something that is awful, and nobody would want it. Not one of us would want to be in that situation. And we have not enough empathy for those people, in my view. And if it were my call right now, I'm not the committee here, but I would be going to option 2. And if if there was some place in there to allow them to make, to the person that is having enforcement action, to make a petition to council to overturn the decision of the administrator, fine. If that's the will of council, not one individual or two people on a committee, but if all of council think that's a good idea for whatever reason then that's fine. But I also think that we have to be willing to take action. I think that generally the population, the people that we represent, would be happy with that. Yeah, there might be a couple people directly affected that would not be, but by and large, if we said, you gotta move those 40 cars off your lot, no more than, you get like a few, like a normal. Or that pile of garbage that's been behind your trailer, that when we take action, you push it up into this corner, you push it down to this corner or whatever, and then the order's lifted, and then over the next 6 months, it all migrates back to where it was. You know, I think those, I mean, the surrounding area would be very happy. So I think that if we want to do something, we should do something serious, and we should take the politics out of it, let the administrator do their job, and give them the backing, give them the mandate that say, if you want to take action, if we're getting complaints, and they come to you, and you feel like it meets the criteria, which are fuzzy, I grant it, of like diminishing values or unsightly or whatever, then we need to support the administrator that's undertaking that, I feel like, as a council.
And I think just to follow up, so I think if those changes are implemented and council is really looking for action on some of those longer term files, I think we also need to prepare to support that budget wise, because I would foresee what would happen in a lot of those situations is we would issue orders, issues would not be complied with, and then we'd be in a case of taking legal action, which is what we would need to do. And so
yeah, sorry.
So I would think that we would need to be prepared.
And I
to
absolutely
take-
believe you that nothing will be complied with, but why would they?
Yeah.
They've been playing with us for 20 years and they've done nothing.
Yeah.
So why would they take it seriously now?
Yeah.
So unless we want to change the narrative and start doing something, then they're never going to take it seriously. CAO?
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in to address some of what Chad just referred to and the solicitor's concerns. So generally, the process we would probably look at would be that if council was delegated authority to an administrator, the administrator would issue an order that would require the property owner to address the situation and spend money addressing it. So whether it's to erect a fence or to remove cars or to remove debris or whatever that might be, they would issue that order. If they don't comply with that order, then that could be a trigger point where it comes back to council for discussion and direction, because that's the point at which we would look at expending money. And it might be that we would expend money in that we would go in and clean up, or that maybe it goes straight to court or something. So there's trigger point there. I think that we would probably look to council for some direction, and that would probably be an in-camera discussion on legal advice and some potential litigation, because that is a situation where we could be in potential litigation with failure to comply with an order.
Councillor Asif.
Yeah, this is anecdotal, but this exact situation that you spoke about how you'd have to create a budget, to make up a scenario of, they don't comply and it comes to a point where you have to basically demolish the property. I know of an experience in Modo that happened 15 years ago, that they did exactly the same thing. They went through the motions of, it had gone on for 10 years. And they just finally had enough, and they actually tore the buildings down. Now, of course, they went after the owner. Whether they recouped anything, I don't know, but the fact that it was going to cost them money didn't stop it, because he just got to a point where he was going, it was just a hamster wheel. And he knew it, and he just didn't comply, because what are they going to do?
Nothing.
And they just finally said enough is enough, and they went in and it was significant. It really was. So that's just my own real life experience with that type of thing. I mean, it's gonna cost money if you wanna, you know, but, you know, I mean, as Councillor Vino's point, I mean, speaking from my own personal experience, I've got a situation similar. And it's no fun, I can tell you right now. It's no fun to be in that situation. And it's, I look at it every day. So,
And one of the other challenging pieces to this that I know, especially the members of the committee are definitely aware, but this is beyond just superficial unsightly property. Like a lot of times, there are a lot of underlying issues, it may be health related, but there are also mental health issues as well in a lot of these situations. And so we have had a few files where we have worked with property owners, clean the properties up in partnership with them, only for a year or two to pass and the property to get right back in the same situation. And a lot of that is related to some mental health issues. I don't want to make light of the situation, but I do know that I think most people are familiar with the television show Hoarder. So there's a whole show based on people that have properties that have a real disability, and so anyway, so there's just lots of layers of complexity to it, and so yeah, that's just a complicating factor on some of these files, but yeah, no, I'm happy to take direction from council, and if council is really wanting to make change with the structure, but then also to follow up on some of these files and really make some serious progress, I'm absolutely happy to have staff carry through with those wishes. We just need to make sure that we're set up in a really good way to do that, and so that staff feels confident going into those situations and making those requests, because we know that the backlash is going to come to councillors for sure when staff take some of those actions.
So let's try to push this into some sort of conclusion on a recommendation from this committee to council. Does this committee want first to remove the committee and give authority to the administrator to make the decision? Yes or no?
I'm comfortable with that as long as the communication's
Abdallah, Councillor Asif.
yeah, and I do too, but I'd like to hear what Tina has to say and Clarissa has to say. I mean, I think we all agree, or most of us, that option 2 is probably the best way to go. But I would like to hear their input.
Well, remember, this is in council.
No,
We're
so
just making a recommendation. This would come back for discussion at council, so we'll have an opportunity to debate. We're just
Yeah.
getting some sort of direction. We do have most of us here.
Well, my direction would be option 2 and to come back with something with option 2. That's how my,
Warden Weber?
Yeah, I'm all right with them coming back with option 2 and some statement about when it comes to council for a final decision, when it doesn't, and all that kind of stuff, but, But I do want to hear from Tina and Clarissa before, well, we obviously will hear.
we will.
I, for one, feel like we should be able to give authority to the administrator and take the politics out of it. The only caveat I would say then is that hopefully council in their wisdom will then support the administrator in most cases. Because if they make the decisions and then if they're in any way challenged and we continuously just undermine them, then they won't make the hard decisions on their own. So they need to be backed up. If we had a development officer that was doing land use control, and every time they made a decision, somebody came wandering in here and complained that they wanted to do something with their lot that was contrary to their decision, and we undermined them, then that land, the bylaw, the development officer wouldn't be able to do their job. They wouldn't have the confidence to make the decision. So if we want to go down option 2 road, that means that our council and future councils will have to support the administrator in most cases. There may always be those one-time outliers, but if it becomes the norm that we're cutting the legs out from underneath our administrator, then that will become a problem. So we have to have the intestinal fortitude to get behind our staff. Councillor Bremner?
Thank you, Deputy Warden. That's been my issue when I looked at number 3, because traditionally I think we get caught up emotionally sometimes and individually, and that's why certain people reach out to us as their friends and everything else. The friendship, in some cases, has to be put aside. I can live with option 2, but I am concerned about what you just presented and what you just said, and if that's not there, then we are down the same rabbit hole again, and I get lost. Thank you.
Maybe, just a thought here for the committee's consideration, maybe if staff's gonna come back with an option around framework, option 2, maybe they can create a framework by which, like criteria for which we would consider an appeal. Like, we don't want it to be just because you're friends with the counselor and they advocate for you, it's gotta be some sort of, there's gotta be some sort of reason. And maybe those appeals would only extend the timeline or something like that. They wouldn't actually, so maybe we can give staff an opportunity to put some constraints around what council could do. Because again, we don't want future councils that aren't part of this discussion to see this and maybe they're more amenable to hearing pleas from the public and they start chopping the legs out from under the administrator, and before you know it, we have a weak bylaw enforcement officer because they can't do their jobs.
Can I jump in for 1 second?
I think that I'll let Councillor Church go first.
Say I support option 2 with some of those parameters in place. I think to take the politics out of it is a good idea. And in fact, I've never sat on that committee. I just, often wondered sometimes with files being there forever.
Decades.
Yeah, what's up? Yeah, no, I think that we should be moving ahead. Option 2, 3 even, but I'm in favor. Let's.
Okay, we'll go through the CAO and then Councillor Bremner.
It's real quick. I just want to note that the MGA has ability for a property owner to appeal a decision of the administrator. And so council would need to decide whether that appeal goes to either council or the committee. So there is an appeal process regardless. It's whether you delegate the authority to hear the appeal to a committee or whether you keep it at council.
Okay.
Councillor Bremner?
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Now I can live with number 2 with what you've presented later as a great moving forward motion or opportunity to look at a motion in the future. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. I think for me, there would be no reason to hold a space for a committee on those instances where we need to hear an appeal. I don't know why we can't. We do on many other matters. I don't see any reason to hold a special committee for that. That's just my take. I'm seeing the body language maybe in agreement here. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Is that the end of it?
No, I think
Okay, that's right. So that's the end of our agenda. We have one. Oh,
Oh, did I miss it?
did we,
Growth plan, sorry.
all right, fine. Come talk to us. Make it snappy.
That's gonna feed back on
You might have to turn that towards.
yeah, it's gonna.
Let's do that.
Give it a try and see it. If it goes squealy, then I'll turn it off.
How we doing?
So far, so good.
Awesome. Well, good morning. My esteemed colleague Brian and I are bringing forward an early update on where we are with growth plan communications and the related image building and capital project engagement. So for context, Brian reported to you a week ago.
Jennifer, can I just interrupt? Does anybody need to go to the washroom or anything, or take a break? You go, okay? Okay, good. Carry on.
So a week ago, Brian previously reported that our communications and marketing request for proposals was awarded to Hawk Marketing. We've met with their team and corresponded regularly over the last couple of months or a month and a half. We refined our scope of work, and for the remainder of the contract, which ends March 31st, and Brian will walk you through that.
Yeah.
So what we wanted to do is provide a bit of an update on the work that's been completed to date, but then also kind of look forward to what's going to be happening between now and the end of March and likely beyond, but we'll get to that in a little bit later. We also basically wanted to walk through the scope of work. So as Jen said, we refined the scope of work. So the original scope of work was 5 items, and it's been expanded to 7, but the 2 additional items are value added that have been provided by the contractor. So the consultant has proposed them, and we accepted them, and they all came in at the same price point that we had originally decided around the scope of work. So the first 2 that we're going to be reviewing today, so I'm not going to spend much time on them, are right there, the audit and the branding update. So we'll go through that in more detail in a second, but those are the first 2 things that we've been working on for the last couple of months. Those provide the foundation for the next 5 that you see on the list, and you'll kind of notice that they're bucketed. So the 4 in the middle kind of all go together and will happen very quickly once this conversation has been concluded today and some direction has been provided on the ways for us to move forward. And then we'll get into the 7th as well. But essentially the 3 in the middle are what came out of the growth plan. So the growth plan, this was the first recommendation in our growth plan that was approved back in April or May. So we wanted to try to improve understanding locally of the work that we're doing, to help foster some increased support and collaboration with our community, and to increase the engagement that we have with people in the municipality, and to increase transparency as well. So the whole idea is that we want to communicate with people about the work that we're doing, and a lot about the why we're doing it as well. So if we look at 3, 4, 5, and 6, so 3 is essentially how do we tell the story locally of what we're doing? How do we talk about the work that we're doing and how it benefits our residents and businesses in the community? Number 4 has to do with workforce attraction, which has come out of our business retention and expansion project. It's also something that was a recommendation in our growth plan as well, so it builds on that as well. So how do we attract workforce to the area? How do we work with developers in the area to increase the supply of housing in the municipality? And how do we also increase economic activity in the municipality by attracting businesses to the area as well? Number 5, just so we can kind of go through what they are, investment communications templates. We have a lot of capital projects that are currently ongoing, and one of the things that we hear a lot is, where does this stand? Like, what are we up to? Why are we doing it? So this would provide us with a consistent template for us to walk through, so that we know when to communicate, how to communicate, and the story and tone to tell about what we're doing. And the final piece, number 6, is really doing that bigger with the growth plan as a whole, because we have about 20 different initiatives, plus all of our half funding initiatives that we're trying to do to work on the growth in the municipality. So how do we really communicate that with our residents, with future residents, and let people know what's going on? Number 7, which is out there on its own, kind of comes out as well of our branding update discussion that we're going to have here as well, which is, as we go through this, we've noticed that there are a few things that we might need to update. So we'll get to that in a bit as the direction comes, but it could be things like what our business cards look like, and how the tone of the story, and what our templates around the office look like, so how we update those assets as we move forward. So we'll get into that in a bit, but first Jen's gonna walk through the audit, which was the first piece on that list.
Yeah, so this is the first step in the process that Hawk proposed, and it's an opportunity for them to take a snapshot of all our communications. So that includes every single one of our social media channels, all of our online presences, like our websites. We have all of our written communications, newsletter, everything that is pushed out to the public. Including Engage Chester and all of those things. But it also included a review of council's strategic priorities, our previous branding, brand book, and also the growth plan and any other kind of bigger strategies that council has approved. So they did. Thank you. So during the review, they looked at how our communications aligned with the strategies, priorities, and also how it aligned with each other. So using what they learned through conversations with us and their audit, Hawk provided us with a communications audit report and made some recommendations, applying several objectives that you see listed there. So as we frame the launch of our scope of work, we and they wanted to tie everything together. So, yeah, some of the objectives you see, that's okay. So some of the objectives there, clarity and trust, one growth narrative, which is really important and will come out later as we talk about the brand, and participation and results. Okay, so those were some of the insights that the report provided. You'll be happy to know that we have a strong communications foundation. You're welcome. So everything is in place already for us to use. They did note that we have some fragmented messaging, which makes sense because we have a lot of channels and different people posting on those. So tourism storytelling, data lives in plans, but is not shown proof of progress. So basically to tie all of those things together so we can launch with focus. And so these are some of the recommendations that came out of that report, and a lot of them make sense. We reviewed them with Hawk, and so again, the one growth narrative, tying messages back to council's priority, kind of bringing that up to date and aligning with the growth plan, and some of the things that council want to see going forward. Some of the immediate quick wins you see listed there, and then some direction for the long-term strategy would be refresh the brand and tone. We had a brand book that or brand identity exercise that council undertook 8 years ago, I think, and we did quite a bit of public engagement and council engagement staff, and we came up with the logo you see there. So that recommendation was mainly to kind of bring that up to date and in line with how council would like to move forward now. More modern, etc. And we will be going through that soon.
Yes. So this is so those recommendations are going to frame a lot of the work that Hawk is going to be doing over the next little while with us when it comes to the growth strategy. But the first thing that they mentioned that kind of provides a foundation for this is the recommendation is to look at the brand as it currently stands and look at a way to evolve it, is the way the conversation has gone. So it's to not, we're not changing the logo, we are refreshing it to keep it in line with the priorities that council has stated over the last number of years, in the last 8-10 years since the brand has been done. So what we were going to do, if you just want to go to the next slide, Emily, is this is a look at the current value proposition as it stands. And what we walked through is what a value proposition is. It's basically trying to express to the people that you're trying to communicate with what you have to offer, what you're selling to your residents, what you're selling to new businesses, to workforce coming into the area, etc. And you want it to be clear, you want it to be relevant, so it represents and is authentic to the location. You want it to be something though that stands out, so you don't just look the same as everybody else. And you want it to be something that people notice themselves in, and it's not a fad, so it's not something that will just come and go. You want it to be lasting and more memorable as well. So this is the implied value proposition as it currently stands with the tagline Nova Scotia's Treasure, and basically we lean into three things: our natural beauty, the quality of life, and our proximity to other locations in the area. So the important thing to note is these things are all still true. We believe that, and through the conversation that we had with Hawk, these things are all still important. However, we did mention over the past 10 years, council has moved forward on a lot of other priorities, including the work that prompted this growth communications plan, which was our growth plan. So kind of looking at opportunities in the area and so on. So with that in mind, now we get to the fun stuff. What we wanted to do, and even though, as you can see, we try not to read from the slides, I will be reading this slide verbatim, just so everybody can hear it. But this is the refreshed value proposition that has been proposed for discussion and direction. So the Municipality of Chester offers what many are searching for: the space to live fully and work meaningfully, with open coastlines, thriving villages, and close connections to economic hubs in Halifax, the South Shore, and the Valley. There's room here for families to put down roots, for businesses to expand, and for industries to find new footing. It's a place where ambition and lifestyle go hand in hand, where builders, makers, and innovators can grow something real without giving up the quality of life they came for. In Chester, you'll find room to breathe and room to grow. And so that's the refreshed value proposition that has been proposed. On the next slide, what we wanted to just show you here is there's 15 different examples. So we haven't finalized any of these yet. Based on the direction today, we would work with Hawk to come up with a final positioning line or tagline, if you will.
Hang on, Councillor Bremner wants to get in there.
Sorry, go
Thank
ahead.
you, Deputy Warden. Is there room for a question here on the last line?
There's always room for questions.
Can we go back to the last line?
Give it to him. Get him, Tiger.
Last line. In Chester, you find room to breathe and grow. Can we put Chester Municipality?
Of course, yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
I don't know,
This-
I can't say that I like that you say room twice in one sentence.
Right.
It's,
I agree too, but
to be completely frank with you, that's likely, that's the
Did ChatGPT do that for you?
no, the proposed tagline that would likely come out of it is one of the tagline options could be room to breathe, room to grow, with a period in between.
you.
So
Right.
Thank
it
you,
becomes a
Deputy.
tagline.
I hate
So
Yeah.
those types of statements that are in a value proposition would be used to brand or kind of be overlaid on some of the communications that are going out. So depending on which audience that we're trying to entice or engage, if it were related to, for example, something in the growth strategy, we would have on the communications like room to grow, it would be an appropriate tagline for that specific piece of communication. And I also wanted to add that I've been here for over 3 decades, and I know that we've always been, we lean heavily into tradition and heritage and culture because it's 100% part of this municipality. But also with the direction that council has been taken now, we need to make room for the growth and we need to make room for the,
Breathing.
okay,
Yeah.
right. So this is an opportunity to do that and to kind of inject it into our current brand.
I don't know about that breathing. I don't know about that breathing stuff.
Breathing
The
essential. for
solicitor
everybody.
wants to weigh in.
Yeah, I have something to say. Picking up on actually what Councillor Bremner just said, I think we have to, it's a bit of a bugbear with me, so bear with me. I think we have to start off by being accurate in our branding and the message we put out. And so we use the term Municipality of Chester, but it's a shorthand. It's not the right name. We're the Municipality of the District of Chester. You know, we're the District of Chester, and there's this confusion people have between Chester Village and the rest of us. And part of that, I think, stems from the fact that we say we're the Municipality of Chester. Well, the village is also a municipality. You know what I mean? What distinguishes us from the village is that we're the District of Chester. So I think it's important that somewhere to get in our official signage and our official logo, District of Chester. So that takes us, that takes us away
I don't
from.
want to do that.
I know people don't like it.
No,
but-
I don't like
but-
it.
But the municipality is just the form of government we have.
Turn off your mics. And,
You know, it's the district. Same as like in you know, the district of Lunenburg and the town of Lunenburg, 2 separate entities, you know, and I think down there they make more emphasis of the fact that they're the district of Lunenburg, because they have the town. So we should pick up on that. At least on official logos, we should somewhere, even in small print, have the district to be legally accurate.
and turn off the
Council
8th counselor.
adopted Municipality of Chester as part of the brand engagement. If council wants to approve District of Chester, they can.
I did want to point out that we do in legal documents and like in formal documents, we use the Municipality of District of Chester because we do recognize the legal significance of it, and this is just for branding, for ease of remembrance for people who are outside of the municipality. It's, that's the rationale behind it in terms of,
I think it's too much of a mouthful.
yeah.
And
that's it.
Just look at this, it's Municipality of Chester, we're using it now.
Look, I mean, that's everywhere, even on official documents, we're
So-
not using our proper name.
I like that. Keep it going.
If I can just respond to that, is that, yeah, there's your legal documents that you would have for signing contracts that, you know, for example, behind our CAO is the District of Chester, which is an official mark. But for, when you're trying to, a brand often is trying to simplify things for all audiences. So not just a corporate audience, it's trying to
Be
be welcoming to visitors, to businesses, to residents, and a brand oftentimes, they used to say, oftentimes a brand gets defined for you by other people, because if everybody starts calling you something and you try to call yourself something else, that's where you can have a big disconnect. And so it is important to kind of differentiate the corporate legal side from what you're trying to put out there in the world as well. So it's
fairly commonplace, I think, for your branding to be a simplified version of your legal name. So
Yes.
I kind of disagree with our solicitor in this case, because it's extremely commonplace just to have an abbreviated version of your name as your branding.
Yes.
Sorry. I'm not turning your mic back.
We okay to continue?
Yes, please.
Okay, so just to kind of follow up, these, because we've already kind of started talking about this, these are just potential positioning lines that are grouped into kind of the themes from the value proposition that we just stated. So we, based on your direction, would finalize some of these with Hawk as we move forward. But that gets us to
Or none of them.
the most fun conversation about today, which is that based on the audit and the work that has been done, what has been proposed is that the current logo, as we see it today, which we're going to show you in a second, it has some really great things about it, and there was a lot of work done to get it to where it is. So the idea is not to go and change it significantly. However, there are some things that don't necessarily work as, they're not as energetic, they're not as useful, they're not as welcoming. So the graphic itself, which we've kind of described internally as the sun sail tree. So the graphic itself is doing some really great things. It has some energy, it's youthful, it's very appealing. But the typeface and the typeface itself and the color that don't really work as hard within the graphic. So the proposal is to take what's working and update it. So just so everybody knows, and everybody's seen this everywhere, this is our current logo. And we're going to walk through a couple of options. So Jen, do you want to?
I just wanted to say the original color for Municipality of Chester in the logo that we have now actually causes problems when we're trying to put swag, put our brand mark on swag. The color,
The brown color.
The brown
yeah,
color in
they
brown
can't
color?
seem to
in
match
the
it.
Municipality of Chester, in the typeface.
No, not the
Oh, that.
Not the
It's supposed to
sun,
be
not the
gold,
sun.
but it comes out
The
as
words,
Yeah, words.
just the words.
And that's what we're talking about. The only,
Yeah.
you'll notice, the only thing that's changing in these are the fonts. So I'm gonna make sure. So we'll walk.
Which one?
This one right here.
Yeah.
So
Here, just a moment. Let me turn on your mic. Counselor Church.
Option one looks wonderful. I would really recommend we go with that. I like that one.
So if you want to just go through these, so
can go
Jen
through
might be
them.
able to talk to these a little bit better, but these are the same logo, just on different backgrounds. So the light is on the left, then you can see what it would look like on a dark background, both in color and in black and white.
Yeah, right now we have a reverse logo, which makes the sail, I don't know if we have an example of that. An example is our business cards. So it's a blue background and it changes the sail to a white color. So this actually really pops.
Yeah, and if you go to the next slide, this is just what it would look like horizontal, because there are time, just so we're clear, this is the same logo. So this is what option one would look like, because essentially what it does is there are certain places where you can't fit a vertical logo, so you need to.
Header of a letter or something.
You got it. So that's what it would look like if it was done horizontally. The next page is, one of the things that we're trying to focus on now is how we can differentiate internally on projects. So for example, not to like the work that's going on right now with the rec facility, for example, how we can use the logo but have a name underneath so that we can differentiate internally with different things. So these are just some examples of how that would work. So that is option one. And then the same thing, it's the same 3 slides here with a different option. So this is option 2, again with an updated typeface. This is the vertical, this is the horizontal, and this is what it would look like if we were differentiating between our own divisions and teams internally. And the last few slides, which I'll just get Emily to go through quickly, are just what this could look like on swag. So you can see it as practically and in practice, so.
Councillor Church, whoops, I just shut you off. So, are you still on from before, or did you actually have?
Oh, no. I
Okay,
like
sorry.
option one.
I
If-
love the
if- if
truck,
I-
by
If
the
I can
way.
make a comment, with the indulgence of the committee. One thing I don't like about option one is, the municipality font is the same size as the Chester font. The thing about municipalities is, we're all municipalities, it's not very unique to us. So, in our previous logo, municipality was smaller. And in the second option, it's smaller, and in this one, municipality is the biggest word, like in terms of size, and it's the least interesting word because we're all municipality. So if I were going to support an option, I agree with Councillor Church, I like option one. I just wish that the font for the word municipality were a little smaller, because that shouldn't be the focus that draws your eye. It should be Chester, because that is our nucleus as a municipality. And the black and white version, I would have put just a tiny little gap between the arc of the sun and the sail, to break up the white. So right now it looks like a handle, like a purse or something. But I'd put like just a small little tiny segment there. Sorry, as a person that I am connected to a community of people that do a lot of drawing. So, you know, if it were my logo, I would probably put a very tiny little arc there just to break it up, so the little tiny sliver of black between
I
the two
can't
things.
unsee it now.
Yeah.
It's a handle.
And just to, you know, we're talking on the fly here, but you'll notice the difference between the size of municipality between the two is because one of is up on the other line and one of is in the down. So
Yeah.
that would be a fairly simple switch for them to put the of up on the top to shorten it slightly.
Yeah,
So
just
it would be like the spacing of the second option applied to the
The
first.
first, exactly.
yeah, just the municipality shouldn't be the same size as our location, I believe. But let's hear from Councillor Bremner.
Thank you, Deputy. Wow, you're quite an artist. I'm impressed with your skills on that. That's good. I like those catches. Does the district become part of this wording?
I think the previous decision of a previous council was to remove district because this was the old logo.
Yeah.
And then we simplified it down to municipality of Chester, because, you know, it's just a mouthful when you're meeting with people. It's like municipality of the district. It's terrible.
Okay, I could live with option one for the word. I like the size of the municipality should be smaller than the other. I agree with that. Yeah. Thank you.
Councillor Azif?
Just to Sam's point, I know what we can do, Sam.
Municipality of
Where
Western Shore.
where the circle is, the white circle, we can put AKA the municipality of the District of Chester. Anyway, I'm fine with it.
Let's move along.
Take your meds this morning?
I'm on 2 hours.
Okay, so just then to confirm and look at next steps, so if we look at this, so what Jen and I then will do is confirm with Hawk that it is the direction of council to proceed with option one with a few tweaks that were discussed here today. And then what we wanted to do is come back to this slide and just point out, so we would then be very quickly moving to these four in the middle. So essentially our plan would be, now that we have confirmed that the logo change, option one, is the direction of council, we would have them finalize that and then start working on the four in the middle, and all of those will be happening simultaneously. So you'll notice they're bunched together. Those are all happening simultaneously between now and March. So I just wanted to kind of give you guys that timeline, that the next update that we give would probably be sometime in March, where we come back with some of the work from the middle four pieces.
Yeah, I think, so when you come, you're also gonna come with the original, whatever it was, the value proposition refreshed. You're gonna come with the official one of those to council?
The tagline
No.
And this is where I'm kind of gonna look at Jen to confirm, so we would be not coming back for approvals for that, though. We would be
I think we need, I think you would, when
Next
we
week.
originally did the brand, we had a motion of council to approve the brand, so I think we would want to come back to council with a revised probably in short order, right?
Everything in this
A revised
presentation, you've
logo
got to bring
based
back
on-
to council.
And
This
we
is not
should
a
bring it back,
decision-making
yeah.
body.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think we should
so
bring
can we
that
do that
back.
next week, do you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there, did you want discussion? Are all those positioning lines, the tag lines, do we need a
We
decision
can
on
work
those?
with Hawk to narrow that down and come up with.
And I think the value proposition, when that went from like a line and a half to a short story, I have a feeling that if Councillor Connors were here, she would have thoughts on that.
And,
Okay.
and just so to clarify on that front, that's an internal
Okay.
story. So to Jen's point, we would be pulling details from this to tell the story in each individual piece that is created. It's just meant to tell the entire story of what we offer as value. So you would never see in a public facing piece this paragraph out there, but you might see language around how room to grow continues to pop up in a lot of different places, or open coastlines and close connections to economic hubs. So you would see
Yeah,
those.
I think
types
that
of
if council, I mean, I don't want to speak on behalf of Councillor Connors, God forbid. But, you know, I think that if she were here, she might say open coastlines, beautiful forests.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely,
she
yeah.
might throw something else in there. I just have this feeling that she might.
And I do have something to add, Brian. This is something, once we have it refined, like we would put this on the about section of our website, so we have something to refer back to and people are a little familiar with it. The other thing is, once we come back to council next week with the revised proposed brand, so we'll start implementing that, like rolling out the updated brand on different things. So that's okay? We're not gonna change everything all at once, but as things need
Have to-
updated.
And that's the additional creative assets, yeah. We would have to start slowly rolling those out.
Rolling.
Yeah.
Councillor Ace?
You, just, when you come back, do you have a budget for this? Like, how does that work? Because I'm looking at the truck, there's, stuff.
Public Works.
And
money.
change, I mean,
Yeah.
I want, you know, if it's, you know, 50 grand or whatever, I'd just like to know what it's gonna cost.
Jump in there.
Yeah, so these are all things we have in our current brand book now, so we're not suggesting that we would come back and immediately rebrand all of our trucks. That would be done over time, and some of that would be built into our budget for next year. So when we get
buy
new
new
trucks, we
stuff,
would do
it'll
that.
be new.
Or we would look at putting a budget in there that you could have discussion at budget time of, we're looking to rebrand all of the trucks with new logos, and this is what the cost would be, and then you can approve that at that time. So it's not something that we would do all at once, a lot of it would be done over time. So as people need new business cards, it would be reflecting the new logo. And so we're not suggesting that everybody go and get new business cards all at once, yeah.
Great, thanks.
And just, I know everybody's probably eager to get, but back to your question earlier about, did we need any direction on those lines? So the quick answer I would say is, if anybody really dislikes any of those lines, it would be good to know now so that we can
Yes.
actually come back with something that would have support of council. But we don't need we don't need you to land on a specific one, if you know what I'm trying to say. So, but if there's anything in there that you absolutely think, please no, then let us know, is what I'm.
Okay. That's that then. Sounds like you got your body language.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Evan.
All right, so I think that's the end of the agenda, and we're gonna conclude this, and then the warden's gonna have a little in camera. So we're gonna,
You need a motion to go in camera. I think we'd need to convene council probably.
I'm gonna convene as soon as you get up there.
All right, yeah, so they're gonna do council.
like 5 minutes, I hate
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, stay on.
stay on for a second.
You can mute it.
Somebody prepared to move we get in camera for legal advice?
So moved.
Discussion, all those in favor, opposed, motion's carried.